The village of the 7 trees with magic flowers. Prologue. In the heart of the Mida Forest, where the sun's rays filtered through the leaves and the dewdrops sparkled like thousands of diamonds, lay a very special village. The village of the 7 trees with magic flowers. It was no ordinary village, but an enchanted place, built by the great architect Noel, the rabbit with a brilliant mind and a big heart. Each tree was unique, bearing flowers of bright colors: red, orange, yellow, green, white, indigo and purple. And these flowers were not only beautiful, but also magical. They spread gentle light at night, guided lost travelers and protected the village with their soothing energy. From the height of the branches, the houses made of wood, stone and moss harmonized perfectly with nature, each with its own courtyard and garden, where flowers and vegetables grew richly. The village was inhabited by 7 families of rabbits, each with a house in a different tree, and in each family of rabbits the young rabbits ran freely, learning about courage, friendship and responsibility. Between the trees flowed the 𝕭𝖎𝖙, clear and lively, which added a soothing murmur and connected the entire village like a silver thread. The surrounding forest, dense and mysterious, was full of life. Small and large animals lived together, and in the dark corners the owls and Jako parrots watched. Night, the owls noticed any suspicious movement, and the parrots guarded the air during the day, and each inhabitant knew that their village was a safe haven, protected by both the magic of the trees and the prudence of the community. In this wonderful place, the rabbits and their young learned to value everything that surrounded them: every flower, every leaf, every ray of sunshine and every breeze of wind. Each day brought new adventures, lessons in courage and moments of joy. Although the forest could sometimes be dangerous, the magic of the flowers and the wisdom of the community transformed the village of the 7 trees into a place where friendship and harmony overcame all fear. Thus began the story of a dream village, where magical flowers illuminated not only the trees, but also the hearts of all who lived there, and the adventures and lessons that were to come would transform the Land of Nale into a place of legend. Chapter 1. The 𝖭𝖎𝖃 and the village beyond. Morning poured like a golden blanket over the Mida Forest, bringing with it a warm light and a deep silence, disturbed only by the rustling of leaves and the delighted chirping of birds awakened early, and that light filtered through the high branches, for small figures advanced with energetic steps. They were Noel, the architect of the village of the blue flower tree, together with the 2 baby rabbits and Luna, dreamy and attentive to details, and the twins Nino and Nina, the most curious from all. Over the northern part of the forest, they were all heading towards the village of the 7 trees, located beyond the 𝖭𝖎𝖃, a place said to house some of the oldest traditions of the animal communities in Mida. Noel walked ahead, his map rolled up in a piece of birch bark, attentive to every sound. The forest was friendly, but mysterious, and he knew all too well that the path must be traveled with caution. Luna, with her big blue eyes, admired the light that played in the corollas of the wildflowers. Nino and Nina, on the other hand, ran from side to side, examining the moss on the trunks, the small creatures that retreated among the roots, and even a colored pebble that they immediately put in their pockets of woven grass. As they advanced, the path widened and the smell of water became more intense. The 𝖭𝖎𝖃 was not just a simple river, it was considered a kind of natural border between 2 worlds. Part of the Mida Forest belonged to their village, with the blue flower tree, with their suspension bridges, with their fragrant wooden houses and with their quiet customs. Beyond the river began the territory of the village of the 7 trees, older, wiser, and much more mysterious. Their tradition and history were strictly preserved, and everything that was built or said had a well-established purpose. When they reached the edge of the river, the landscape made all four of them stop for a few moments. 𝖭𝖎𝖙 was clear as glass and yet tumultuous, flowing energetically over the stones, rounded by time. The reflections of the sun danced on the water, creating a spectacle of silver and blue colors. On either side, the roots of the centuries-old trees stretched out like arms that wanted to encompass everything, and over the water arched the wooden bridge that it was said that only the sincere of heart could cross on full moon nights without being stopped by the strange light that sometimes appeared in the middle of it. The bridge was built by the old artisans of the village of 𝕁𝖊𝖏, and had animal sculptures on each supporting pillar. Wolves, rabbits, foxes, owls, and even snakes were represented in amazing harmony, as a symbol of the unity between all the species that once lived peacefully in the Mida Forest. The sculptures had eyes painted with a natural light blue paint, and that hue seemed to come to life when the sun's rays were touching them. "It's more beautiful than I imagined," Luna murmured, feeling a mix of joy and emotion. Luna was Noel's bunny and Nino and Nina's mother, but she felt a strange connection between herself and this place. "The 𝖭𝖎𝖙 River was like an old guardian," Noel said, looking up at the bridge. "It could tell us stories for centuries if he opened his mouth. But for now, we just cross it and enjoy its beauty." Nina pulled Nino by the ear. "Who knows what stories he has? Maybe there are creatures in the water watching us right now." Nino was no less. "Or maybe even the sculptures can talk at night." Noel smiled and gently pushed them towards the bridge. "Come on, talk is no substitute for walking. The village of the 7 trees awaits us." Their footsteps could be heard softly on the well-polished wooden floors of the bridge. The wood was so well preserved that it creaked only when touched by strong winds or too hurried footsteps. On the edge of the bridge, garlands of white and blue flowers grew wildly, caught between the cracks, as if nature was trying to remind them that she was the true architect of the forest. When they reached the middle of the bridge, 𝖭𝖎𝖙 offered them his most beautiful painting. Downstream, the water gathered in a small eye of light, where goldfish with golden scales lived. Upstream, the rocks were covered with emerald green moss, and a family of ducks passed quietly, floating in the rhythm of the current. Everything seemed so peaceful that even the twins, so energetic as usual, they stopped to look at the wonder. "See," whispered Noel. "This is why we preserve the bridge, the river and the forest, so that each generation will know where it comes from." "And where is it going?" Luna completed, looking into the distance, towards the village of the 7 trees. "Exactly," said Noel, "and the forest. The past and the future are 2 roads that meet, and we are travelers between them." When they got off the bridge, the terrain began to climb gently. The road was strewn with small purple flowers, called 𝖭𝖎𝖏, which grew only on the other side of the 𝖭𝖎𝖙 River. They were known for their slightly minty scent, and Nino and Nina did not hesitate to pick a few to put in Luna's hair. Much to her amusement, as they climbed, the trees became taller and older. Their thick trunks had natural patterns that resembled maps, and some had holes in the shape of hearts or spirals. Noel told the children that these trees had witnessed hundreds of years of history, and that secrets were hidden in their roots that only the oracle of the forest could decipher. After half an hour of walking, the path widened and in front of them an amazing view opened up. The village of the 7 trees, 𝖁𝖎𝖏, was built around 7 giant trees, each representing a virtue: wisdom, courage, kindness, hope, harmony, loyalty and truth. Around these trees were round wooden houses, suspension bridges, platforms in the air and carved staircases that climbed to the upper floors of the trees. The place was full of life. Animals walked, talked, worked with various tools, and chickens ran through the clearings. Everything breathed peace and order, and in the middle of the village was a small spring, called the Crystal Fountain, where water flowed directly from the roots of the tree of truth. Nina's mouth fell open. It's the most beautiful village I've ever seen. And we haven't even entered the center yet, Noel said, lightly touching the trunk of the first tree. Here, traditions merge with the story of each inhabitant. Luna felt a strange thrill, like a mysterious call. Noel, do you think we will have a role here too? The architect looked at her gently. Everyone who crosses the 𝕭𝖎𝖏 bridge has a role in the Mida Forest. But your role, Luna, you will discover when you truly listen to the voice of the trees. As they approached the entrance to the village, the leaves of the old trees rustled softly, as if whispering a greeting. The air was cooler, but pleasant, and a feeling of tranquility enveloped everyone. Chapter 2. The Tree with Red Flowers. As the group led by Noel stepped deeper into the village of the 7 trees, the air gradually changed. The breeze became warmer, perfumed with a sweet and intense scent, as if the earth itself breathed colors. Luna looked up and then she saw it, a huge tree, as tall as 3 overlapping bridges, with branches spread like the wings of a mythical bird. Its flowers were red like the burning embers of a summer evening, and in the morning light they seemed to be small flames caught between the leaves. This is the red flower tree, Noel said in a warm voice. And here lives the Crimson Rabbit family, one of the most important families in the village. The tree was not only a home, but also a symbol of the passion, work and energy of the community. The trunk had traces of old carvings, spirals, zigzag lines and small geometric figures that represented the changing seasons. Halfway through, a large wooden platform stretched around the tree, forming a circular terrace, surrounded by vines and stems that made the transition between nature and the home almost imperceptible. Luna, fascinated, approached one of the red flowers. It was as big as an adult rabbit's palm and had velvety petals with fine dark veins. Its fragrance was intoxicating, but pleasant, with a slightly fruity note. "They are gorgeous," she whispered. "Be careful not to touch it too hard," Nina told her, placing her hand on her shoulder. "It is said that some of the flowers of this tree can glow at night if they are caressed too much." "It is not just a legend," Noel added with a smile. "The crimson tree reacts to energy and emotion. That is why the family that lives here is so respected. They know how to take care of it and understand its changes." That moment, hurried footsteps and a cheerful giggle were heard from inside the tree. Round door, carved in the bark, opened, and in the doorway appeared a tall adult rabbit with reddish-brown fur and bright red, almost glassy eyes. He was wearing a red natural fiber vest and had long, neat whiskers. "Noel, old friend," he exclaimed, opening his arms. "Welcome back to our place." "Ravel, it's nice to see you," Noel replied, approaching and hugging him briefly. "I present to you Luna, Nino and Nina. This is my first time in the village of the 7 trees." Ravel Crimson looked at each one with warm and searching eyes. "Welcome, little travelers. You should know that in our house, youthful energy is always a gift." Behind him appeared a delicate bunny, with fur the color of sweet wine, ruby eyes, and a gentle expression. The hair around the ears was braided with small red petals. "I am 𝕬𝐴 Crimson," she said in a melodious voice. "Come on, come in. We have prepared sweet leaves and red fruit juice." The children entered first, their eyes wide open, exploring everything. The interior of the tree was warm and bright. The main hollow had been expanded over several generations, transforming the trunk into a spacious and welcoming home. The walls were covered with layers of smooth bark, and the floor was made of well-polished redwood in the middle, a kind of table carved directly from the trunk rose like a platform. All around, woven baskets contained fruits, seeds, and small traditional ornaments. On a spiral staircase that climbed to the upper floors, 2 footsteps and a clear restlessness were suddenly heard. A pair of chickens appeared at the top of the stairs. They were 𝕊𝖏 and 𝕬𝖏 crimson. 𝕊𝖏, slightly older, had intense red fur, with eyes like 2 drops dark. 𝕬𝖏, on the other hand, was lighter in complexion and had a serene, intelligent expression. "Dad," 𝕊𝖏 shouted. "Who are the guests?" "Oh, you are small like us," 𝕬𝖏 exclaimed, descending the stairs in a graceful leap. "These are Noel, Luna, and their 2 cubs from the village of beyond," said 𝕬𝖏. "They are here to get to know our village." 𝕊𝖏 looked carefully at Nino and Nina, then at Luna. "Are you ready to see our jumping ramp?" he asked, with a wry smile. 𝕬𝖏 touched his ear lightly. "First we let them breathe, my dear. Maybe after snack." Nino was already excited. "Ramp? What do you mean?" "We have a small one, at the blue flower tree." "Ours is huge," 𝕊𝖏 said proudly. "And it jumps right into the air, between 2 branches. The moon, approaches 𝕬𝖏. Your house is wonderful. It looks like a sanctuary." 𝕬𝖏 smiled. "The tree with red flowers is alive. It listens to us, protects us, and responds to us. But only if we pay attention to it." Ravel brought a round platter, full of sweet leaves filled with red nectar. "Our tradition says that anyone who crosses our threshold must taste the red fruit of the forest," he solemnly declared. "It is a sign of friendship." Nino took the first bite and his eyes widened. It is delicious. It tastes like strawberries and raspberries at the same time," Nina said. "And something hot. Come proudly," he added. "It's our special flavor, the crimson families." As they ate, Ravel began to tell stories about their family. "Our ancestors were the first to live in this tree. They discovered that the red flowers could be used to create vibrant colors, for fabrics and paintings. But also that the tree reacts to our emotions. If we are angry or tense, the flowers close their petals. If we are happy or calm, they open wide." Complete series. At night, when the atmosphere is calm, some flowers begin to shine. They say that they are the memories of those who lived here, preserved in their light. The moon remained fascinated. "I would like to see them shine." "If you stay until the evening," said 𝕬𝖏, "we will show you. It is a unique show." After snack, the children went out onto the large terrace of the tree. From there, the view of the village was superb. The suspension bridges between the trees, the animals walking around, the sunlight playing on the leaves. "Come," he beckoned to Nino. "Come. Here is the ramp." The ramp started at the edge of the terrace and curved between 2 thick branches. It was a structure of flexible wood, intertwined with strong vines. "We jump from here," 𝕬𝖏 explained. "But you have to know exactly how to land on the second branch." Nino was ready to try. "Can I jump?" "Not now," Noel intervened firmly. "First observe, that's the rule." Ravel laughed lightly. Noel was always a thinker before acting. A good example. 𝕊𝖏 did not let himself be begged. With a brisk jump, he sprang onto the ramp and landed perfectly on the branch in front. "That's how it's done." "Me too," said Nina, preparing to jump. "Not yet." Luna shouted, pulling her back. We need to understand how it works. Luna is right, 𝖁𝖏𝖏 said. The tree reacts to your energy. If you are agitated, the ramp becomes too elastic. If you are calm, it supports you. While the children watched the ramp with eyes full of fascination, Noel walked around the tree, analyzing its layers, sculptures, internal levels. Did you rebuild the northern area of the trunk? He asked. Ravel smiled. Yes, last year. The tree asked for it. Through the trembling of the branches, I felt that it needed more space for air and light. Extraordinary, Noel murmured. The magic between you and the tree is unique. Luna, observing their discussion, approached the inner walls of the tree. She pressed her palm to the warm bark and felt a faint vibration, like a pulse, a friendly, gentle energy, as if answering her. It was like a greeting. Luna, 𝖁𝖏𝖏 said, approaching her, it seems like she likes you. Do you think so? The tree is never wrong. Ravel motioned to Noel. Tonight we have a small ceremony. Red flowers shine brightly as benevolent visitors step onto the terrace. Would you like to participate? Noel looked at Luna and the two children, and they nodded enthusiastically. Then you are our honored guests, said 𝖁𝖏𝖏. As the sun began to set, the red flames of the flowers lit up more and more intensely, preparing a nighttime spectacle that would remain in everyone's memory. For Luna, Nino, Nina, and even Noel, the visit to the red flower tree was not just a meeting with family. It was the beginning of a new connection, a chapter of deep understanding between living things and the forest. And the Crimson family, with their energy, traditions, and warmth, was just the first of the 7 wonders they would discover in the village of the 7 trees. Chapter 3. The Orange Blossom Tree. After saying goodbye to the Crimson family and the red ramp that still vibrated slightly under the children's footsteps, Noel led Luna, Nino, and Nina to the next tree. The path was a wide, beaten path for dozens of steps, bordered by round stones and covered by the playful shadows of the leaves. The air gradually became warmer, and the light penetrated through the branches in a special way, almost like a continuous sunset. As they advanced, a sweet, citrusy scent began to envelop them. Do you smell it? Luna asked, taking a deep breath. Nino nodded. It's like an orange, but also something sweeter. It's the orange blossom tree, Noel said warmly. The Amber family's home. You'll see, it's the brightest of them all. And indeed, when they passed the last bushes, the tree appeared in all its glory. It was tall, with wide branches that stretched out like welcoming arms. Its orange flowers were not only beautiful, they seemed to be lit from within, emanating a warm light, like that of a natural lantern. Their petals had golden reflections, and when the wind touched them, they made a fine, crystalline sound, similar to the tinkling of a bell. Wow, Nina whispered with wide eyes, magical. The trunk of the tree was carved with oval lines, circles and spiral shapes, all painted in a pastel orange shade. It was the most cheerful and colorful house they had ever seen. Wide staircase, made of light wood and thick vines, climbed to a circular terrace. Small glass jars were hung all around, each containing an orange firefly, which sparkled happily. Who had the idea for the jars? Luna asked. Pippi, Noel said laughing, said that flowers light up beautifully, but fireflies light up funny. Before they approached the staircase, a burst of energy erupted from above, followed by a short scream. I'm here. A little rabbit jumped from the terrace, doing 2 somersaults in the air before landing like an elastic ball in front of them. He had orange fur like a ripe peach and bright yellow eyes. Its ears were trembling with excitement. I'm Pippi. Welcome to us. Nino and Nina burst out laughing. Are you Pippi? How much energy you have, said Nina. That's how oranges are, the little rabbit proudly declared, puffing out his chest. And I'm the most energetic of all oranges. Luna looked at him gently. You are a little son, she told him. Pippi turned around once and motioned for them to go up to the top of the stairs. His parents were waiting for them. 𝕊𝖎𝖏𝖊𝖊 was a tall and robust rabbit, with darker orange fur, almost rust. His eyes sparkled with kindness, and on his head he wore a headband made of braided leaves. He had the air of a hard-working rabbit, used to repairing, building and inventing. Next to him sat 𝕁𝖊𝖊𝖊𝖊, a rabbit with soft, golden-orange fur, with a warm look and a permanent smile on her lips. Her ears were decorated with orange petals, and her movements had a natural grace. Welcome to our home, 𝕊𝖎𝖏 said in a deep voice. Noel, it is a joy to see you again. Welcome back, friends, Noel replied. And they are my family. 𝕁𝖊𝖊𝖊 leaned over and touched the children's hands in greeting. You are cute and full of light, she said. The tree sensed you as soon as you arrived. Entering Amber's house, the children were amazed. The entire interior was naturally lit, the walls seemed to glow, and the floor was soft, as if it were made of wood mixed with sunlight. Orange fruits hung from the ceiling that emanated a warm light, and in the corners were placed small circular devices, made by 𝕊𝖎𝖏, that emitted a funny pock at irregular intervals. What is this? Nino asked, approaching a disc. Atmosphere tricks, said Pippi proudly. Dad says it helps the tree release its energy and not get bored. So that they don't get bored? Nina laughed. Each tree has its own personality, 𝕁𝖊𝖊 intervened. And the orange blossom tree is playful. It likes noise, movement and colors. That's why our house is always alive. Pippi jumped towards a small hatch in the floor. Do you want to see the slide? Do you have a slide? Nino exploded with happiness. We have 3. Pippi answered, lifting the door of a small spiral tunnel. Pippi, 𝕊𝖎𝖏 said in a parental tone, we'll show him the workshop first. The slide can wait. 𝕊𝖎𝖏's workshop was located in a side room. It was full of tools, pieces of wood, pieces of vines, wheels, discs, dried lavender, orange colors, and a lot of projects started. I build things that make life easier, or more fun, 𝕊𝖎𝖏 said, smiling broadly. This is my new project. Build a small round platform with wheels. It's a tree scooter. You climb on it and you can move around the branches without jumping. Nina was fascinated. But isn't it dangerous? Not if you're careful, said 𝕁𝖊𝖊𝖊𝖊. In our village, all inventions are tested by Pippi, sometimes too enthusiastically. Pippi was fidgeting, impatient. Let's go to the slide. Everyone left the workshop and gathered around the frame. The slide was a long tunnel of smooth bark, which started from the inside of the tree and arched through the branches, exiting outside and returning inside through an opening covered in flowers. Is it safe? Luna asked, examining the tunnel. Very sure, said 𝕁𝖊𝖊𝖊𝖊. I tested everything with the tree. If a chicken gets scared, the walls become softer and the speed decreases. Pippi didn't wait for any confirmation. He threw himself into the tunnel and disappeared in an instant, followed by a roar of resounding laughter. I want it, said Nino, launching himself too. Nina followed him. The tunnel made musical sounds as the children slid through it, as if the flowers were singing. From outside, Pippi, Nino and Nina could be heard laughing like 3 orange bells. Noel and Luna took a seat on two benches carved directly into the bark. Torin brought orange fruit drinks, slightly effervescent, and Mela prepared sweet leaves with golden cream. "Your family seems happy here," said Luna. "We are," answered Mela. "The tree gives us energy and we give it joy back." "You live in a permanent show of color," Noel added admiringly. "Each family has its own gift," said Torin. "We have the orange light. You have the blue peace." After a few minutes, the children returned, completely charged with energy. "I want it again," shouted Nino. "Me too," said Nina. "Later," said Pippi. "Now I'll show you the terrace." The main terrace was a large space, full of soft orange pillows and baskets of bright fruit. From above, you could see part of the village, colorful trees, suspension bridges and small flying boats crossing the sky. The sun's rays hit the orange flowers, making them seem alive like slow flames. "At night," said Pippi, "all these flowers light up and illuminate the bridges. That's why people call us the merry light of the village." "But it is also a responsibility," Mela added. "If the light decreases, it means that something is disturbing the forest." "It doesn't happen often," Torin said confidently. "Our tree is sturdy." While the children played with little luminous balls made by Torin, Noel and Luna looked down at the roots of the tree. There, a circle of large stones surrounded the trunk. Light vapors of light came out of the stones, a sign that the tree was in harmony with those who inhabited it. "Torin," said Noel, "I noticed your protection system around the root. It looks like the one I thought of for the blue flower tree." "Yes, I was inspired by your style," Torin admitted proudly. "But I also added something of our playful nature. The stones only light up when Pippi is happy." "So they always light up," Luna replied laughing. "In the evening, Pippi invited them to a little ritual. The tree began to vibrate slightly, the orange flowers shook and their light intensified. Tea was the expression of the tree, the way the tree showed its gratitude to those who visited it and brought joy." Lyra and Vino Crimson had also appeared, curious. "I saw the light from you," Vino said. "It is stronger than usual." "Yes," added Lyra. "The orange tree is glad that you have come." The children formed a circle around the trunk. Each of them touched soft bark. That moment, the flowers lit up even more brightly, spreading a warm orange light that enveloped everyone. "It's like a sunrise," Nina said excitedly. "It's our blessing," Mela said. When the ceremony ended, Pippi ran to Nino and Nina. "Come again. I'll show you the more secret slides next time." "We promise," they answered at the same time. Noel, Luna, Nino and Nina left the orange blossom tree with big smiles. It was clear to everyone that this was the village of pure joy, and they had just visited the second family. Chapter 4. The Tree with Yellow Flowers. The path to the third tree in the village across the 𝕭𝐻𝑎d River was beginning to brighten more and more, as if, with each step, the small rays of sunlight were gaining courage and falling through the high branches of the Mida Forest. Noel, Luna, Nino and Nina walked quietly along the well-trodden path, and as they approached the tree with yellow flowers, the air was charged with a warm, gentle glow that seemed to come from the very bark of the old tree. The sunray tree was, without a doubt, the brightest of all 7, not because it was necessarily huge, but because its flowers lit up in an intense shade of yellow, like little suns that hung lazily among the leaves. When the wind blew, the flowers swayed slightly, and their thin petals emitted a warm light, pulsating rhythmically, like a breath. Nino and Nina stood stunned, their mouths open and their eyes wide, watching each petal that slowly floated to the ground. "Wow," Nina murmured, pressing her paws to her chest. "It seems like it's always morning here." "Hey, you're here, you're here." A cheerful voice echoed from the branches. A moment later, a golden yellow rabbit, with shiny fur and warm eyes, descended a ladder woven from vines. He was 𝕭𝖎𝖏𝖊𝖓, the master of the tree, a rabbit known throughout the land for the way he managed to transform any gloomy day into a bright one. "Noel, my dear friend. What a joy to see you again," he exclaimed, jumping straight into the architect's arms. Noel laughed heartily and returned the hug. "𝕭𝖎𝖏, your house looks even more beautiful than last year. You've made some changes, haven't you?" "Just small adjustments," 𝕭𝖎𝖏 said modestly, though her eyes sparkled with pride. "I can't help but add something new every spring. Come on up. 𝕊𝖏 has prepared something sweet for you." 𝕊𝖏's sun ray was as bright as the tree she lived in. Her fur was a light shade of honey, and her long ears were always adorned with little floral ribbons. She stood in the doorway, with a wide, warm smile, and a tray full of rolled leaves filled with yellow flower nectar, a specialty of the sunray family. "Come in, dear guests," 𝕊𝖏 said, motioning them to enter the little house raised among the branches. The interior of the house was like a corner of eternal summer. The yellow wooden floor was polished to a shine, and the windows, cut into round shapes, let the light in soft, golden waves. Garlands of dried flowers hung from the walls, and the table in the middle of the room was decorated with shiny yellow pebbles. "Mommies, daddies, they're arrived," shouted a thin voice from one corner, followed immediately by another, then another. 3 bundles of energy jumped into the middle of the room. Loom, Lamey and Lano, the sunray triplets, had no patience. Each of them seemed to be from a different corner of the yellow rainbow. Loom was the lightest in fur, almost cream. Lamey had intense golden yellow fur, and Lano wore a slightly darker shade, almost amber. "Noel, Noel, the architect. You built our house," Lamey shouted, spinning in a circle. "And the balcony," Loom completed him. "And the secret hatch," Lano whispered conspiratorially, as if the others didn't already know. Noel laughed, raising his hands to temper them. Yes, you 3 gave me a lot of ideas when I built your tree. But what are you doing? Are you still acting so energetic?" "We don't walk. We fly," said Loom, and immediately all 3 of them jumped on a slide inside the house, coming out through a tunnel covered in flowers. Nino and Nina looked at each other with wide eyes, fascinated. "Can we, too?" Nino asked shyly. "Sure," 𝕊𝖏 urged them. "But hold on tight, sometimes they go down faster than you think." Nino and Nina didn't wait for an invitation. In a few seconds, they were already after the triplets, and their giggles could be heard all the way to the base of the tree. Inside the house, Luna and 𝕊𝖏 were preparing tea from yellow flower petals, a tea known for its sweet taste and floral aroma. 𝕭𝖎𝖏, meanwhile, took Noel to show him the improvements made to the tree's structure. "I added another support to the root," 𝕭𝖎𝖏 said proudly. "Tea grew more than I expected, so it wouldn't hurt to strengthen it from the base." Noel analyzed everything carefully, touching the wood, listening to its vibration. "Excellent, 𝕭𝖎𝖏. Your tree is healthy and beautiful. Take care of it like a baby rabbit." "Well, my babies are a little harder to control than the tree," 𝕭𝖎𝖏 admitted, hearing a cheerful shout approaching. The triplets entered the house with Nino and Nina after them, all red-cheeked and full of energy. "We won," Lano shouted, raising his paws. No, me. I arrived first," Lamey said. Actually, me, Loom declared, with the most serious air possible. Noel and Luna laughed. It was impossible to decide who had won. All three seemed to have arrived simultaneously. After they calmed down a bit, Luna hugged the triplets. You have grown so much. You were as small as a walnut when I first met you. Now we are big, Lano said, standing up straight. Almost as much as Dad. Not really, he teased him 𝕬𝖎𝖏, giving him a gentle nudge. After snacks and stories, the Sunray family led Noel, Luna, Nino and Nina to the high balcony of the tree. From there, the entire village could be seen. The colorful trees, the 𝕭𝖙 river whispering among the stones, and in the distance, the mysterious and quiet Mida Forest. This is where we sit in the evening and watch the light from the flowers, said Fina. And sometimes, we see how your blue flowers shine in the distance. We will always visit you, said Nina, holding on to the railing. And you too, Loom completed. The day continued to radiate light, and the yellow flower tree remained behind as a living memory of the warmth, energy and cheerfulness of the Sunray family. The journey had many more stops, but the visit to the yellow tree had already left a trace of sunshine in everyone's hearts. Chapter 5. The Tree with Green Flowers. The road to the tree with green flowers began in a quieter area of the village beyond the 𝕭𝖙 river. As Noel, Luna, Nino and Nina advanced, the atmosphere transformed. The air became cooler, cleaner, filled with the scent of young plants and fresh moisture, the way the forest smells after a short rain. There was a pleasant coolness, which made everyone walk more slowly, to enjoy every breath. The tree with green flowers was different from all the others. It was neither the tallest nor the most colorful, but it was entirely covered with large, shiny leaves, and its flowers shone in a pale green with silver edges. The flowers were not very large, but in a strange way, sometimes they seemed to move on their own, as if they were following the light or listening to the heartbeat of the forest. Nino and Nina stopped in front of it and looked up for a long time, fascinated. It seems like a tree made only of green light, Nina whispered. And it seems to breathe, Nino added. Luna smiled. It is a very special tree. It is considered the calmest and wisest tree in the entire village. Noel approached and touched the bark with his palm. The wood was cold to the touch, but it exuded a calm, soothing energy. This is where 𝖭𝖎𝖙, Nessa and their little boy, Rinny, live, Noel said, looking up at the house raised among the leaves. They are very calm rabbits, and their house is built in perfect harmony with nature. A ladder woven from vines and wide branches descended from the tree, and at the top appeared a tall rabbit, with olive-green fur, gentle eyes and slow movements. It was 𝖭𝖎𝖙. Noel. What a wonderful surprise. His voice was so calm that it seemed that each word hung in the air like a leaf gently blown by the wind. He descended with measured steps and greeted them with an elegant bow. Welcome to our tree. Please, climb. We are very pleased to have you as our guests. As they climbed, the green leaves rustled softly, like a discreet choir. Nina held on to the ladder tightly, but smiled continuously, delighted by the sensation of being in the middle of a green tunnel. To the top of the ladder, on the doorstep, Nessa, a rabbit with light fur, almost greenish-white, with big warm eyes, was waiting for them. Welcome. Please, come in. Behind her, half hidden behind a small table, was Rinny. Rinny was different. His fur was a mix of pale green and cream, and his big eyes, the color of young leaves, were shyly averted. When he saw Nino and Nina, he took a step back, without making a sound. This is Rinny, Nessa said gently. He's a little shy at first, but he's a very good and very intelligent boy. Nino gave him a cheerful sign with his paw. Hi. Do you want to play later? Rinny blinked a few times, surprised by the invitation. He just murmured, maybe. While Rinny was finding his courage, the house in the green flower tree revealed its tranquility. He was small, but very beautiful. The walls were made of light green wood, and the windows had frames carved in the shape of leaves. The smell of fresh tea and medicinal herbs wafted through the air. This is where we live, Nessa said, seating everyone at the table. We like simplicity. 𝖁𝖎𝖙 brought a tray of green tea made from flower petals, a tea known for its calming properties. This tea is good for the heart and for clear thoughts, he said. You will definitely like it. Noel tasted it first and nodded in agreement. It tastes like a quiet morning after the rain. That's exactly how we describe it, Nessa said, satisfied. Rinny only took his seat after everyone else had sat down. He pulled his ears forward, a sign that he was embarrassed, but his eyes followed Nino and Nina's every move, as if he was curious, but he didn't dare to come closer. And you, little one, Luna said gently, what do you like to do? Rinny fidgeted a little, then answered in a whisper, I like to draw leaves and animals and trees. Luna smiled broadly. How beautiful. Maybe you can show us something too? Rinny slowly stood up, went to a shelf and took out a large notebook made of pressed leaves. She held it out to the guests with shy pride. The drawings were amazing. Detailed trees, birds in flight, perfectly outlined leaves and animals from the Mida Forest rendered with incredible precision for such a small chick. Rinny, you are a true artist, Noel said sincerely. The yellow sunray triplets would have jumped up and screamed, but Nino and Nina were different. They looked at Nessa and 𝖁𝖎𝖙, then at the little boy, and with a wide smile Nina said, we promise you something. If you come to play with us, we won't scream. We promise there will be peace. Rinny's eyes widened. It was a big promise for him. Okay, we can try. After they finished their tea, 𝖁𝖎𝖙 invited them to see the special balcony of the house. The balcony was surrounded only by huge leaves, so much so that it seemed like an open-air green room. From there, the entire village could be seen, and the sunlight filtered through the leaves like a natural stained glass window. This is where we spend our evenings, 𝖁𝖎𝖙 said. It's our place of peace. Nino, Nina and Rinny had already gone out onto the balcony and were playing silently with some large leaves, turning them into boats for a small lake, made from a bowl of water. Nessa noticed them, then said quietly, I think Rinny needs friends who understand him. Thank you, Noel, for bringing yours. Noel touched her hand gently. Every child has their place in this world. Rinny was just waiting for the right moment. The day was slowly ending, with the sun descending into the green shadows of the tree. When they left later, Rinny led them to the stairs and said, for the first time in a louder voice, will you come tomorrow too? Of course. Nino and Nina answered at the same time. The tree with green flowers was left behind, breathing calmly and warmly, like a green heart of the village. And among its leaves, Rinny would finally have true friends. Chapter 6. The White Flower Tree. Far from the green shadows of 𝖁𝖎𝖙 and Nessa's tree, the road gradually brightened, as if the forest itself knew where Noel's family was going. The path became lighter, brighter, and the air seemed perfumed with a delicate scent of jasmine and warm milk. This is where it must be, said Luna, looking ahead with wide eyes. The white flower tree could be seen between the trunks like a luminous cloud lowered to the ground. It was the only tree that seemed to shine even in the middle of the day. Its flowers were large, round, white as untouched snow, and when the wind blew, petals fell everywhere like a gentle snowfall. Nino and Nina stopped under it, as if dazed by its beauty. "It seems like it's raining stars," exclaimed Nina, trying to catch the petals in her paws. "I think it's like it's snowing with light," said Nino, standing on tiptoe. Noel, usually calm and reserved, looked at the tree with a special pride. "I worked a lot on this house," he said. Brian and Looney wanted everything to be white, clean and warm. They dreamed of a house where it would seem that they live in winter, but a good, beautiful, friendly winter. Luna kissed him lightly on the cheek. "And you succeeded. It's magical." The staircase of white branches, woven with shiny fibers, was already stretching down, a sign that they had been seen. "Shall we go up?" Nina asked impatiently. "Sure, my dear," Luna replied. "But be careful. The stairs are a little slippery." To the top of the stairs appeared a golden figure. Brian, the father of the Snow-leaf family, he was a tall rabbit, with golden white fur and pale green eyes, like grass covered with frost. He had a warm, bright expression, and smiled with a rare serenity. "Welcome, Noel. What a joy to have you here." Before Noel could answer, 2 white gnomes almost exploded on the balcony, running in circles. "That's how their girls are," Luna said, laughing. The 2 daughters, Lumi and Cece, came running out, almost slipping on the white floor. Lumi was a little older, with eyes as blue as the winter sky, and Cece was small, round and full of energy, with eyes as black as 2 poppy seeds. "Guests! Guests! Guests!" Cece screamed, jumping into her father's arms. "New bunnies," Lumi said, a little calmer, coming towards Nino and Nina. "We are Lumi and Cece. I am older," Lumi said importantly. "I am more agile too," Cece completed, doing a somersault in front of them. Nino looked at her fascinated. "I think you are the fastest rabbit I have ever seen." Cece straightened up suddenly, proud. "Yes. And I can run on the roof too." "Maybe later," her mother intervened with an amused smile. From behind her appeared Looney, a gorgeous little rabbit, with milk-white fur and golden eyes, gentle, warm, luminous. She had a natural elegance, like a snowflake carried by the wind. "Welcome to our home," she said. "Please come in." The Snow-leaf house was a perfect white. The walls were made of the tree trunk, but carved into delicate figures. Flakes, stars, flowers, circles. The floor was covered with a fine layer of white moss, soft as a blanket. And in the middle of the main room burned a small lamp with warm golden light, which made the entire room seem bathed in a winter sun. "This is where we live," said Brian. "And the tree is the one that protects us. Every morning, its flowers fall slowly, like a gift. And we collect them," Cece shouted. "And we make garlands. Look." On one wall hung garlands of white petals, woven with thin thread. They were so fine that they almost seemed made of real snow. "They are wonderful," said Nina in amazement. "Lightly red worlds, proud. I weave them. Cece just puts them in the basket." "But I gather them," replied Cece, jumping like a popcorn kernel. Brian invited them to the table. Fragrant tea of white flowers and a soft honey cake were already prepared. "Please, taste." Noel bit into the cake and flinched slightly. "It's incredible." "What flavors?" Looney smiled quietly. "It's my mother's recipe. The soft flakes cake." While the adults were telling stories, the Snow-leaf girls took Nino and Nina to their room. It was a small but spectacular room. The walls were covered with drawings of glued petals, and the furniture was rounded and carved so that it looked like clouds. "This is where we sleep," said Cece. "I jump on the bed every morning. And I stop it," Lumi completed, pulling her back gently. Nina lay down on one of the beds. It's the softest bed in the world. It's made of white moss, Lumi whispered. Cuddled by Daddy every winter. Nino looked around. But where is your favorite toy? Lumi picked up a small box. This, inside, was a star carved from white wood, through which a weak light passed. It's the gift of the tree, Lumi said slowly. Every year, the tree with white flowers gives a single star of light. We received it 2 years ago too. Nino and Nina looked in amazement at the star that seemed alive. That moment, Lumi called them. Children, come to the balcony for a moment. We have something to show you. The balcony was wide, open, and the petals were spread everywhere like a carpet. Look, said Luni. The breeze died down, and the flowers began to move slowly, as if in a dance. White, all white, like snow without the cold. This is what our happiness looks like, said Brian, taking Luna by the paw. Nina, excited, put her arm around her brother. I want to live here. Me too, whispered Nino. Brian laughed. You are welcome any time. The house with white flowers has room for all friends. When Noel's family left later, petals fell behind them, like a blessing. It's like it's leading us home, said Luna, watching them lie down. No, said Noel with a warm smile, it's just telling us that we were well received. And so the white flower tree was left behind, shining in the soft afternoon light, like a beacon of light and peace in everyone's hearts. Chapter 7. The Indigo Flower Tree. As Noel's family moved towards their 7th house, the road through the Mida Forest became more mysterious and enchanting. The foliage was suffused with shades of blue and purple, and the sunlight penetrated through the branches like shy rays that played on the moss-covered ground. Look at this color, Nina whispered. It was as if the entire forest had turned into a night dream. Yes, and it seems like the air smells of night flowers, added Nino, looking up at the sky filtered through the branches. In the middle of this mysterious settlement, the indigo flower tree appeared. It was imposing, with a thick trunk and branches spread wide, and its flowers in deep shades of indigo and dark blue seemed to absorb the daylight and transform it into a gentle magic. The flowers were large, with velvety petals, and some seemed to pulse gently, like heartbeats in the quiet rhythm of the forest. Noel smiled. Here is the indigo tree. It is our last stop before ending our visits. This is the Indira family home. Luna noticed an elegant staircase made of branches woven with bright blue fibers, which gently descended to the ground. The twin children Nino and Nina stopped for a moment, fascinated by the intense colors of the flowers. It looks like a story, Nina said, reaching out her paw to one of the flowers, without touching it. And I think someone very special lives here, Nino added, looking up. From the top of the stairs, a rabbit with fine fur, in shades of light purple, appeared, her bright eyes reflecting the evening sky. It was Mira, the twins' mother, who smiled warmly, inviting visitors to come up. Welcome, she said in a gentle but authoritative voice. Our house is small, but you will be comfortable. Behind her appeared Rondo, the twins' father, with dark fur, almost blue-black, green eyes and a strong stature. It had a calm look, but at the same time full of protective energy. We were looking forward to this visit, said Rondo. Come on, see how we've settled in here. Nino and Nina were already starting to climb the stairs with Rinny, Reno and the other baby rabbits who had been invited on this trip. At the top of the stairs, the twins Ronnie and Renu appeared in an explosion of energy. Welcome, they shouted in chorus, jumping and doing somersaults on the floor. Ronnie had slightly blue fur, and Renu was a little darker, almost purple. Their eyes sparkled with curiosity and joy. Mira reassured them with a delicate gesture. "Be good, little ones, so we can welcome the guests properly." Ronnie and Renu, although energetic, understood their role, at least for a few moments, and approached Nino and Nina with wide and curious eyes. "I want to show you my room," Ronnie shouted. "I want to play with you too," Renu added. Noel and Luna exchanged a smile. It was clear that here, in the indigo tree, friendship could be formed very easily. Mira led the guests inside the house. The walls were made of dark blue wood, carved with delicate patterns of flowers and leaves. The floor was covered with a soft, light purple fabric, and the furniture seemed to be made of woven branches, but incredibly comfortable. "This is where we live," said Mira. "Our house is simple, but comfortable, and the twins love to explore every nook and cranny." Ronnie and Renu immediately rushed to the toy shelves, but instead of making noise, they began to show Nino and Nina everything they had: small bowls, bags of fragrant leaves, and dolls made of twigs. "Look, this is my favorite teddy bear," Ronnie shouted, holding up a wooden doll. "And this is my puppy," Renu added, pointing to a figure carved in dark blue wood. Nina smiled broadly. "It's wonderful here." "And very quiet," whispered Nino. Rondo invited them to a small improvised wooden table, where indigo flower tea and some soft cakes were prepared. Their aroma was subtle, full of honey and flower petals, perfect for a quiet afternoon. "This tea is for the moments when I want to relax," said Rondo. "But please taste it too." Noel took a sip and smiled. "It tastes very fine, like a sunset mixed with the silence of the night." While the adults talked about the construction of the house and about life in the Mida Forest, the twins Ronnie and Renu began to play together with Nino and Nina, running around the room and hiding among the flower petals. "I think the twins are very energetic," Luna said, watching the children run around. "And very curious," Noel added. "But everything here seems to be done to help them be safe and happy." Mira smiled, looking at them with pride. "This house is built with care for every detail. The indigo trees provide natural protection, and their flowers illuminate the night a little, so that no one gets lost." Ronnie and Renu, tired of playing, sat down next to their parents. "And now," said Mira, "we can show you the balcony. There you will see the entire Mida Forest and our village." The balcony was located high, with branches that stretched wide. From this point, you could see the 𝕭𝐻𝐿 river that ran through the forest, and the sun bathed in the water seemed like a mirage of light. "The view is wonderful," Nina said, holding on to Nino's paw. "This is where we spend our evenings," Rondo added, "and the silence of the night. The indigo flowers subtly glow, creating a play of shadows and lights that delights us every evening." After they got down and prepared to leave, Ronnie and Renu waved goodbye. "We'll come play with you soon. We'll come visit you too," Nina replied enthusiastically. The indigo flower tree remained behind, vibrating in a gentle shade of indigo, like a beacon of protection and joy. Noel's family moved on, knowing that the village of 7 houses, built with care and love, hid many friendships and stories yet to be started. The entire afternoon had been full of colors, laughter, and sweet scents. And for Nino and Nina, the indigo tree became a symbol of adventure, courage, and friendship that could be linked between the most different rabbits, but with equally open hearts. Chapter 8. The Purple Flower Tree. Noel, Luna, Nino, and Nina's journey through the village of 7 trees had come to an end, and as the sun sank towards the west, the shadows of the Mida Forest lengthened, making the path even more mysterious. In front of them stood the last tree of the village. The purple flower tree. It was massive and imposing, with a thick trunk and branches that undulated like the waves of a deep sea. Its flowers were a deep purple, some almost blue, others with purple hues, shining in the sunset light like jewels, scattered among the leaves. "Wow," said Nina, her large eyes reflecting the shades of the flowers. "It is the most beautiful tree of all. And it seems to exude peace," added Nino, breathing deeply the air scented with flowers. Noel, looking at him with pride, smiled. "Here is the 𝖁𝖏 tree, the last house of the village. It is the place where Varun and Sheila chose to live with their cub, Vio." Luna looked at Noel with a warm smile. "You are an extraordinary architect. Each tree has its own personality, and the flowers seem to tell a story." Under the branches of the tree, an elegant staircase of dark purple branches gently descended to the ground, and the petals fell around like a velvet carpet. Nino and Nina rushed forward, jumping among the petals, and the flowers seemed to vibrate at their touch. From inside, a rabbit with light fur, slightly purple in tone, appeared, her bright and warm eyes reflecting the shades of the flowers. It was Sheila, Vio's mother, who welcomed them with her arms opened. "Welcome. What a joy to see you." Behind her, the silhouette of Varun, the father of the family, was outlined. His fur was slightly gray, with dark purple reflections, and his eyes were gentle, but they retained a playful sparkle. He had an imposing stature, but his steps were gentle and sure, as if the forest had always known him. "Vio, come and meet the guests," Sheila said, smiling. From a corner of the room, a bunny with white-purple fur and intense purple eyes approached shyly, holding a small drawing board in its paws. He was Vio, their artistic son, who preferred to spend his time painting, sculpting or arranging flower petals. "Hello," he said softly, showing a small painting of the village of 7 houses and the 𝕭𝐻𝐿 River, but in violet and blue colors, like a dream. Nino and Nina approached with wide, fascinated eyes. "It's incredible," Nina said, looking at the details. "You even painted the flowers. And the water of the river is like a rainbow," added Nino, trying to distinguish the shades. Varun laughed slightly. "Vio has the talent to see beauty in simple things. Flowers, light, shadow, for him they are all stories waiting to be told." Sheila invited them to go deeper into the house. The walls were carved in delicate patterns, with shapes of flowers, stars and rainbows barely visible in the diffuse light of the violet flowers. The floor was soft, covered with a layer of violet moss, and seemed to absorb every step, making every movement seem floating. "This is my favorite room," said Sheila. "This is where our child creates his works of art and plays, but he can also rest in peace." Vio proudly showed her a sculpture made of twigs and petals, which represented the 𝕭𝐻𝐿 River and the bridge over it, with little bunnies crossing from one house to another. "It's wonderful," said Nino, looking carefully at every detail. "It seemed to capture the soul of the river," added Nina. While the children explored Vio's room and workshop, Sheila and Varun led Noel and Luna to the balcony. The balcony was wide, with branches stretching in all directions, and the purple and blue flowers slowly fell, creating a natural curtain. "The view from here is spectacular," said Noel, looking at the village from above. "Every tree has its own charm, but this one has something special. It is the silence of the night and the beauty of art," said Varun, taking Noel and Luna by the paws. "The violet tree is not only a house, but also a refuge for imagination and dreams." The evening was slowly beginning to descend. The petals of the violet flowers were softly lit by the light of the evening lamp, and the air was fragrant and warm. Vio took some brushes and showed Noel's children how to paint the flowers that fell from the tree, and Nino and Nina began to create small works of art, laughing and getting their paws dirty with paint. "I think every day here is a story," Luna whispered to Noel, watching the children's playful scenes. "Yes, and every child can learn to see the world with different eyes," Noel said, smiling. After the children's artistic vision ended, Sheila prepared a small snack: fresh fruit and edible flowers, and Varun brought a hot tea made from purple and blue plants. Its aroma was subtle, delicate, relaxing, as if each sip brought peace to the soul. "This is our way of ending our day," said Sheila. Flowers, colors and tea create a moment of harmony. As the time of departure approached, Vio gave Nino and Nina each a small painting, as a memory. The purple flowers seemed to dance in the watercolor, and the 𝕭𝖙 shone between the houses of the village. "You will come back to visit us, right?" Varun asked with gentle eyes. "Sure," said Nino, excited. "We will keep the village and the tree in our hearts," Nina added. As Noel's family left, the violet tree remained behind, radiating a warm, enigmatic light, like a beacon that protected the village and created a space where imagination and friendship met. "It's amazing," Luna whispered, watching the petals rise gently in the evening wind. "Every house in this village is a story," Noel said. "And every story is worth living." And so the violet flower tree remained in their memory as a symbol of art, creativity and harmony, ending their visit to the village of 7 trees built with such care and love by the great architect of the forest, 𝕭𝖎𝖌𝖊𝖊𝖘. Chapter 9. The Great Village Council. Spring in the village across the 𝕭𝖙 brought with it a special energy. The sun's rays filtered through the tree branches and reflected in the colorful petals of the 7 trees, creating a mosaic of lights and shadows that danced on the flower-covered ground. Tea was the day of the Great Village Council, an annual event in which all the rabbit families gathered to discuss community problems, plans for the upcoming season, and the joys brought by nature. Rabbit Indar, the village chief, a white rabbit with shiny fur and piercing green eyes, waited patiently in the center of the village, in front of the wooden bridge over the 𝕭𝖙. Next to him, the other prominent rabbits, including Daryl, the fighting, strong and agile rabbit, and Oren, the intelligent and strategic rabbit, were preparing the last details. Noel and Luna, along with their children Nino and Nina, arrived in the village crossing the bridge, admiring each house built by Noel. The trees with red, orange, yellow, green, white, indigo and purple flowers swayed in the wind, as if greeting them. The guests were welcomed with joy by each family, who had gathered at their places to participate in the council. "Welcome, everyone," said Indar, standing on his front paws and looking at everyone carefully. "Today we gather to discuss the protection of the village and to celebrate the beginning of spring." Noel was the guest of honor. All the rabbits wondered how he managed to build such a safe and harmonious village in the middle of the Mida Forest. Indar offered him words of praise. "Noel, through your ingenuity and devotion, our village has become a safe and beautiful place. Every house, every tree and every flower contributes to the harmony of this place." Noel modestly replied, "Thank you, Indar. We built these houses not only for protection, but also to encourage friendship and cooperation between families. Every detail has been thought out to bring comfort, safety and joy." The council began with the introduction of each family. Indar invited them one by one to say their names, talk about their children and what they wished for the Crimson family. with parents 𝕁𝖊𝖏 and their puppies 𝕁𝖐 and 𝕍𝖐, talked about their desire to plant more red flowers to attract bees to help with the harvest. The Amber family, with Toran, Mela and Pippi, proposed organizing games for the young rabbits to learn cooperation and speed. The Sunray family, Gala and Fina, with triplets Loom, Lamy and Lano, showed plans for building a small pontoon on the 𝕭𝐻𝑎d River, where the rabbits could observe the birds and fish that live in the water. The Green family, Horal, Nessa and their son Rinny, presented ideas for improving the green gardens around their trees to have more food for the winter. The Snowleaf family, with White Flowers, Brian and Looney, together with their daughters Lumi and Cece, talked about the importance of preserving supplies and how each family can contribute to the well-being of the village. The Indira family, with Rondo, Mira and the twins Ronnie and Renu, spoke about the security of the village and the observations made at the watch posts, where owls keep watch at night and Jako parrots during the day. Finally, they reached the 𝖁𝖎𝖏 family, who lived in the purple flower tree. Varun, Sheila and Vayo talked about how creativity and art can be integrated into community life to bring joy and harmony. Vayo presented some of his paintings, in which the entire village was represented, with the 𝖭𝐻𝑚 River flowing through the Mida Forest and the flowering trees. After each family presented their thoughts and wishes, Indar raised his voice to announce the main problems that needed solutions: protecting the village from predators, improving supplies for the rainy months and maintaining harmony between the families. As you know, our village has solid fences and observation posts at the four corners of the settlement. Owls keep watch at night, and Jako parrots guard during the day, but we must be prepared for any situation. Noel has proposed some improvements: underground safety tunnels between the trees, small platforms on branches for children, and more effective signaling systems between the watch posts. If we work together, said Noel, your village will not only have the beauty and harmony that we see now, but also the security that will allow us to live without fear. Daryl, the fighting rabbit, added, every rabbit must learn to be vigilant and know the safe routes. In case of danger, everyone must know where to hide and how to communicate. Oren, the intelligent rabbit, completed. The observations made by the owls and parrots must be analyzed daily. We will teach the young rabbits to interpret the warning sounds and be prepared. As the sun approached sunset, the animals of the village had gathered together around a large circle of stones, where Indar concluded the council. Thank you all for participating. With the help of each of you, our village will continue to be a place of friendship, safety and harmony. Noel and Luna watched as each family prepared their paths back to their homes. Gemini, Nino and Nina ran towards the bridge over the 𝖭𝐻𝑚 River, laughing and making plans to return to the trees they had visited. This day shows us that together we can build more than houses, said Noel. We can build a community, a big family of rabbits that protect each other and enjoy themselves together. And so, the great village council ends in an atmosphere of joy, plans and harmony. The village of the 7 trees remained in the light of the sunset, fluttering its colorful flowers and promising days full of adventures, friendship and wisdom for all the rabbit families. Chapter 10. The 4 Watchtowers. The village of 7 trees across the 𝖭𝐻𝑚 River was known not only for the beauty of the houses built by the great architect Noel, but also for the ingenious protection system that made it one of the safest places in the Mida Forest. In the middle of this charming settlement, each family lived in harmony, knowing that the village was guarded day and night, and predators had no chance of entering their yards. However, the village chief had prepared a special presentation for that day. The visitors were going to get to know the 4 watchtowers that watched over the entire community. Noel, Luna, Nino and Nina, together with the other rabbit families, gathered in the center of the village. 𝖭𝖎 raised his paw and looked at the crowd. Dear rabbits, today we will see how our village is guarded, day and night. The 4 watchtowers not only watches over us, but offers us the security we need to enjoy life without fear. The first tower was located in the northwest corner of the village, right next to the 𝕭𝖎𝖙 River. It was a construction made of wood and woven leaves, with a slightly sloping roof, like a crown of green leaves. Inside were 2 old owls, with gray feathers and large, penetrating eyes. They watched carefully over the forest, looking for any suspicious movement. Owls are very clever, explains 𝖭𝖎. They see at night better than any rabbit or animal, and can detect danger before it reaches us. Noel admires the construction technique. Each platform is fixed firmly on solid branches, and the owls have quick access to all directions of the village. The second tower was located in the northeast corner, close to the clearing with yellow flowers. This one was a little higher, so that it could observe the Mida Forest from a privileged position. The owls in this tower were wise and calm, with whitish feathers and luminous eyes. Every night, they made warning sounds if they sensed any danger, and this signal was immediately recognized by all the families. At night, each rabbit knows to stay close to its home and listen to the owl's signals. That way, we are all safe, 𝖭𝖎 continued. The southwest tower was located near the indigo flower tree and was guarded by 2 younger owls, who were learning to read the signs of the forest. Noel smiled, admiring how the system was designed for continuity. The younger owls are trained for the future, so that the village is always protected. The southeast tower, located near the violet flower tree, was the most spectacular. The structure was decorated with flowers, and at its top was a special observation platform. Here, the owls kept watch in harmony with the Jako parrots, who had begun their service during the day. These parrots were colorful, with green, red and yellow feathers, and had remarkable hearing and attention. They flew among the branches, monitoring the village, and if they detected anything suspicious, they would make loud cries to alert the entire community. Jako parrots, explains 𝖭𝖎, are our eyes during the day. They see everything that moves and are very fast. If a wolf or other predator enters the forest, they will notice it and chase it away using sound signals. Noel, impressed, pointed to Luna. Did you notice how all these towers are located exactly in the corners of the village? It is an intelligent strategy for complete surveillance. Luna smiled and looked at the yards of each family. The solid fences built around each house harmonized perfectly with nature and protected the rabbits from any danger. Inside the courtyards, the baby rabbits played fearlessly, running among the flowers and branches, and small animals, such as birds and squirrels, passed unhindered. With these 4 towers and the fences of each house, 𝖭𝖎 continued, no predator can enter the village. Our village is protected, and every rabbit knows that he can live freely and happily. Noel proposed a small demonstration for the little ones, asking each owl and each parrot to emit the warning signal. The owls shook their feathers and made short sounds, immediately pressing the Jako parrots that he had trained during the day. The sounds spread throughout the village, and the baby rabbits jumped in. Surprise, but without fear. This is the magic of the village, said Noel. The protection is not only for you, but also for the little ones, who learn to respect nature and protect themselves. Nino and Nina were fascinated. It's like a story, whispered Nina. Each tower is like a magical guardian. And it's like parrots can talk to owls, Nino added, imitating a short signaling noise. But he ended the visit to the towers with an important message. We created this system not to fear danger, but to live peacefully and to teach each rabbit to be vigilant. Our village is a united community, and these towers symbolize the cooperation and care we have for each other. As the sun slowly descended towards the sunset, the village flowers changed their shades, and the sun's rays reflected in the towers and in the attentive eyes of the birds and owls. Nino and Nina ran between the fences, imitating the flight of parrots and the flapping of owls' wings, while the adults discussed plans and improvements for the next season. It's wonderful to see how nature and the ingenuity of rabbits can create protection without destroying the beauty of the forest, Luna whispered to Noel. Noel looked at the village bathed in the sunset light and smiled. This is the harmony I wanted. Beauty, safety, and friendship can coexist, and these watchtowers are the symbol of the care and love we have for our community. Thus, the day ended with satisfaction and pride. The village with 7 magical trees was completely protected, and the rabbits knew that no matter what happened in the Mida Forest, their families, their young and each home were safe, watched over by the 4 watchtowers, the wise owls and the ever-watchful Jako parrots. Chapter 11. Shadows in the Forest. Night had fallen over the village of 7 trees beyond the 𝕭𝖎𝖏 river, and the moonlight bathed the colorful flowers and solid fences of the houses in silver. The air was cold and dense, with the smell of wet leaves and rotting earth, and the Mida Forest seemed to breathe slowly, with a mysterious rustle that crept through the branches. In this apparent silence, the 4 watchtowers did their work rigorously, and the owls watched with their large, piercing eyes. Oriana, the wisest of the owls, shook her feathers and peered carefully through the darkness of the forest. The movement was subtle, but her fine instinct told her that something was approaching. But she said in a clear and authoritative voice, "I feel shadows creeping through the forest. The wolves are restless." But the village chief raised his paw and looked into the distance. The night was more cloudy than usual. The wind whistled through the leaves and brought with it the rustle of silent footsteps. "It is time to be vigilant," he said. "The sentry posts will activate the signals, and each family must be prepared to take shelter." The owls, with their soft feathers and silent flight, began to scan the forest. Oriana shook her wings and soared gently on the branches above, her yellow eyes glowing in the darkness. At the same time, the other owls had taken up positions in the northwest, northeast, and southwest towers. The wind brought the rustling sound, making the shadows seem larger than they were, and the village became a tense scene. The rabbits in the courtyards must be inside, warned in 𝕍 by signals to the families. Oren, Daryl, and the other brave rabbits must be prepared for anything. In the forest, 4 wolves and a she-wolf, who lived deep in Mida, felt the first signs of night. The she-wolf, with dark gray fur and eyes like embers, bent down to sniff the cold air. 3 young wolves, agile and strong, surveyed the surroundings, sensing the smells coming from the village. Their movements were slow and calculated, every rustle of a leaf was carefully observed, and their breathing became visible in the cold night air. But he instructed the other rabbits to be vigilant. "We cannot be fooled. The village is protected, but the wolves can be cunning. We must remain calm and respect the signals of the owls." The owls began to emit short signals, sounds that echoed over the village. The Jako parrots, who were now sleeping in their shelters, were awakened and looked carefully in the direction of the signals. Their shrill sounds were clearly heard, warning the village of the approach of predators. "It's more than just a patrol," Luna said to Noel, looking at the shadows of the forest. The tension was palpable. Noel, attentive and calm, replied, "Yes, but the system works. The towers and the signals of the owls and parrots give us time to react. We just have to follow the instructions. Meanwhile, the wolves were approaching the edge of the forest, moving carefully. Their eyes glowed in the darkness, their ears twitching at every rustle. The she-wolf, the leader of the pack, was making subtle signs for the others to approach more slowly. Daryl and Oren had emerged from their houses and positioned themselves strategically. Daryl, his muscles tense and his paws ready to react, was watching the pack's movements, while Oren calculated their trajectory and possible entry points into the village. Noel and Indar were discussing quickly how to use the safety tunnels and fences to channel the wolves away from rabbit families. "The village is ready," Indar said, "but we must be careful with their every step. This night is unlike any other." The wolves continued their approach, their long shadows stretching through the trees. The wind carried the scent of rabbits and flowers, and the rustling of leaves was like a signal for chaos. The owls shook their wings and made high-pitched sounds, calling the village to attention. The Jako parrots responded instantly, flying through the branches and shouting warnings. The night seemed to be growing denser and more tense. Nino and Nina were brought to their parents' houses, and each family made sure that the doors were locked and the yards were protected. Every tree, every fence, and every observation post worked like a perfectly synchronized mechanism, keeping the village safe. Luna, looking at Noel, said, "Even in this tension, the village seems alive. Every tower, every fence, every signal is like a protective music." Noel smiled. "Exactly. Shadows can come, but they can't penetrate here. Our village is not just a settlement. It's a family that protects each other." Deep in the forest, the wolves felt that the village was different. Despite their proximity, they couldn't find a way to penetrate the fences and towers. The she-wolf understood that the night game was lost. The village was too well protected. She gave a silent signal, and the pack was ordered to retreat into the forest, letting the shadows dissolve among the dark branches. The owls resumed their watchful positions, and the Jako parrots sat on the branches, observing the returning silence. But with a raised paw, she gave them the signal to relax. "Everything is under control." Our village had another uneventful night as the first rays of morning penetrated through the branches of the trees. The village of 7 trees with magic flowers shone again in its vibrant colors. The flowers seemed to shake off the tension of the night, and the air was filled with the scent of fresh flowers and wet leaves. Nino and Nina came out curiously, running between the fences, imitating the flight of owls and Jako parrots. "It was scary," said Nina, "but I'm grateful that we are safe." "Yes," said Nino, "let's frolic among the flowers. Our village is magical and protected." Noel looked at the village bathed in the morning light and smiled. "The shadows may come, but with friendship, intelligence, and care, the village always remains a safe and harmonious place." Thus, the shadows in the forest passed, and the village remained protected, demonstrating once again that the solidarity, vigilance, and wisdom of the rabbits transform fear into safety and the dark night into a time of harmony and tranquility. Chapter 12. The Pack of 4. In the dark depths of the Mida Forest, among the thick branches and damp leaves that rustled under the invisible footsteps of the nocturnal creatures, the Pack of 4 hid. The wolves were cunning and powerful, and their reputation in the forest was unquestionable. This pack, made up of 4 members, stood out for its intelligence, strength, and perfect coordination. The she-wolf Vera was the natural leader of the group. Her dark gray fur and bright yellow eyes gave her an imposing and respected presence. Always attentive to detail, 𝕍𝖎 noticed every rustle of a leaf and every movement in the air, anticipating the actions of everyone. 𝕬𝖎, the largest wolf among them, was muscular and imposing. His gray fur and green eyes seemed to penetrate the darkness of the forest. He was strong and capable of knocking down any obstacle, but at the same time, he listened carefully to 𝕬𝖎's commands. 𝕁𝖎, young and agile, he moved like a shadow through the trees, his ears always raised and his nose sharp, sensing scents from miles away. 𝕁𝖏, the smallest wolf of the pack, was cunning and quick, always ready to sneak up behind prey or execute unexpected strategies, supporting his comrades. That night, the moon was hidden by clouds, and the forest seemed to sink into a heavy silence. The pack had gathered on a rocky promontory, from where they could see the village of 7 trees and the colorful houses built by Noel. The small lights, coming from the rabbits' windows, shone through the branches, and the shadows of the trees danced on the village ground, creating the impression of a magical place. Looking at Indar, 𝕬𝖎 said, "The village is well protected. The fences are solid, and the observation posts are visible even from here." 𝕬𝖎 growled. "It's a challenge. If we can get through, we'll prove that the pack of 4 is the most skilled in the forest." 𝕁𝖎 and 𝕁𝖏 shook their fur, mentally preparing for the attack. Each of them knew the forest terrain, but the village was different. Noel's structures, solid fences, and watchtowers presented a difficult obstacle. The wolves quietly and strategically considered how they could enter. "Let's not rush," 𝕬𝖎 said. "Observe every branch, every window. The village is small, but it is well protected. We must find the weakness in their system." The wolves divided their tasks. 𝕬𝖎 was to draw attention to the house with the red flowers, 𝕁𝖎 was to observe the fences and any weak points, 𝕁𝖏 was to create a distraction by sudden movements in the shadows, and 𝕬𝖎 was to oversee the entire operation, coordinating the pack's movements and giving precise instructions. As the night progressed, the wolves began to feel the pulse of the village. The air carried with it the scent of rabbits, flowers, and the revegetated earth. The slight movement of the leaves and the subtle rustling of the earth under the feet of the wild animals of the forest became clues to the pack. "We are getting closer," 𝕁𝖏 said in a low, almost inaudible voice. 𝕬𝖎 raised her head and studied the village in the faint moonlight. Her eyes sparkled. Every watchtower, every fence, and every step of the rabbits was carefully observed. The owls on the sentries flapped their wings and turned their heads, sensing the presence of the pack, and the Jako parrots, although sleeping now, had quick reflexes and would have detected any movement. "We must be inventive," 𝕬𝖎 continued. "We cannot use brute force. We must use cunning and strategy." 𝕬𝖎 approached the edge of the forest, analyzing the path that led to the inner courtyards of the village. 𝕁𝖎 studied a fence of intertwined branches, trying to identify a vulnerable spot, while 𝕁𝖏 slipped through the branches, testing the sounds and reactions of the village at night. "You," says 𝕬𝖎, "if you find a weak point, signal. Otherwise, we retreat. The village is well protected and we must not risk ourselves unnecessarily." The wolves moved in silence, their paws lightly touching the damp ground, their eyes shining in the darkness. That night, every rustle and every shadow was carefully examined. The pack of 4 was not only powerful, but also extremely calculated, analyzing all possible options. "The village is impressive," 𝕬𝖎 said in a moment of hidden admiration. "Every detail seems thought out for safety and protection." "Exactly," 𝕬𝖎 replied. "That's our difficulty. We must find a solution that doesn't rely on brute force." And so the pack stopped on the promontory, studying the village and preparing for a long night of planning. The wolves were not attacking yet, but analyzing, trying to understand the logic of the village, the fences, the watchtowers, and each strategy of the rabbits. The night was quiet, but full of tension. The shadows of the pack of 4 floated through the branches, and the village below them seemed like a castle surrounded by invisible protections. In this oppressive silence, the pack of 4 set their plans in motion, each wolf aware that a mistake could be fatal. Vera, the leader, understood that the village was different, and that the fight would not be easy. However, their ambition was great, to try and test the limits of the ingenious protection created by Noel. The night ended with the wolves preparing for the next phase of the plan. Looking down at the village above the forest, their shadows melting through the branches, but they were remaining strong. The village shone in the moonlight, its colorful flowers fluttering, untouched by the presence of the pack, but tense with the imminent threat that hung in the air. This was the pack of 4, 𝕬𝖎𝖏, 𝕁𝖎𝖏𝖏, Brum and Vera, strong, cunning and always ready to test the limits of the rabbit village, ready to face any challenge and leave shadows in the Mida Forest. Chapter 13. The Abduction of the White Chicks. The morning that should have been a quiet one in the village of the 7 trees opened with an unusual coolness. The white flowers of the snow leaf tree were laden with dew, the drops hanging like frozen pearls. Loony had awakened her chicks gently, without any suspicion that the day would turn into a nightmare. Lumi and Cece were the first to descend the spiral stairs, giggling, followed by Leary and Sen, the 2 younger brothers, still sleepy. Brian was preparing breakfast, caramelized leaves, sweet seeds and white nectar, but the chicks were too energetic to sit down at the table right away. Loony, accustomed to their playful nature, had allowed them to play for a few moments in the clearing, as long as they did not go beyond the circle marked with white pebbles. Leary and Sen had run among the petals fallen, raising small fragrant whirlwinds into the air. Everything seemed calm, and the Mida Forest continued its quiet breathing, but hiding motionless shadows in its depths. At the same time, near the border between the forest and the village, the pack of the 4 approached silently, gliding through the bushes like gray ghosts. 𝕬𝖎𝖏, their leader, had stretched his neck and was sniffing the air with terrible interest. The smell of the white cubs was clear, sweet, and fresh, exactly what had aroused their hungry instincts. Vera, the she-wolf, was staring fixedly at the clearing. 𝕁𝖎𝖏𝖏 and Brum watched without breathing. "Today we take them," 𝕬𝖎𝖏 growled with dark satisfaction. "We do no harm unless necessary," Vera murmured, although she knew that no one was really listening to her. "If they resist, it doesn't matter," 𝕁𝖎𝖏 replied. Brum, the largest of them, merely nodded. That morning, the night owls had just retired to their towers, and the Jako parrots were not yet fully awake. The usually impeccable security system had a brief moment of weakness, a window of a few minutes when the day and night guards intersected. It was exactly the moment the pack had been waiting for. Leary stopped by a bush and looked at something in the grass. "Sen, come and see. Look at that shiny leaf." Sen ran to his brother, fascinated, in the snowleaf house. Loony realized that the silence in the clearing had become too deep. Their usually noisy chicks were no longer making a sound. "Brian, go call them. I'm afraid they've gone too far." Brian, his chest tightening, hurried down the steps. When he emerged into the clearing, he saw the small footprints left in the dew, leading to the edge of the forest. "Leary. Sen. Where are you?" No voice answered. At the same moment, from the depths of the forest came a faint whimper, then a muffled bark. Brian froze. Then his eyes filled with horror. He understood immediately. Luna. Wolves. His scream echoed like thunder throughout the village. In a few seconds, parents and cubs emerged from all the houses. and Noel and Luna were the first to reach him. "What happened?" Noel asked, breathing hard. Brian put his hand to his chest, trembling. "They were taken, Leary and Sen. The wolves kidnapped them." The village alarm bell began to ring, its echo spreading over the 𝕭𝐻𝑎d River. The Jako parrots stood up in fright, and the 4 watchtowers were instantly activated. The owls that had not yet fallen asleep returned to their positions. However, the village chief appeared from the center of the village, serious, his ears alert. "How did they get through?" he asks harshly. "During the shift change," said Luna, swallowing hard. Noel nodded, overcome with guilt. "I should have predicted this. I built the towers. I should have known there would be a vulnerable moment." The parents from the other families had quickly gathered: Crimson, Amber, Sunray, Greenleaf, Indira, and Vilith. Their terrified cubs were hiding behind them, sensing for the first time the real threat of the forest. Luna fell to her knees, her gaze lost. Luna embraced her, hugging her to her chest. "We will bring them back, I promise," she said with a strength she had never used before. But 𝕁𝖊𝖌𝖊 raised her hand. "Everyone listen. We have a kidnapping. The pack of 4 is nearby. We must act now. The pursuit group is forming immediately. Noel, Luna, Ravel, Torin. With me." "I'm coming." Mira from the Indira family shouted as well. "Me too," added 𝖁𝖎𝖙. But 𝕁𝖊𝖌𝖊 raised his paw firmly. "Not all of them. The village must be protected. The pack can return. The remaining cubs are not left unattended for a moment in the forest." The pack was already advancing with the prey. Leary and Sen, frightened, tried to scream, but Vera carefully held them between her jaws, without hurting them, but preventing them from escaping. "Don't hurt them," she whispered to 𝕬𝖍𝖎. "As long as they stay still, they won't be harmed," he replied, though his eyes showed a hungry determination. As the search party set off, the Mida Forest became a maze of shadows. Noel analyzed every trace, every broken twig, every fallen blade of grass. Ravel and Torin scanned the sides, while Luna remained behind 𝕁𝖊𝖌𝖊, ready to jump if new tracks appeared. Suddenly, Noel stopped short. "They passed here. It's clear. 2 small tracks. And 4 large tracks." Luna, who had secretly followed them to the edge of the forest, unable to stay away, appeared behind them. Please bring them home." 𝕁𝖊𝖌𝖊 approached her. "We will find them, Loony. But you must return to the village. The cubs will panic even more if they see you disappear too." Loony, torn between longing and responsibility, gives in. "Be careful." The team continued on their way into the forest, and the light filtered more and more difficultly through the trees, suggesting that the wolves were heading towards their deep territories, perhaps even to their lair. But she felt the danger growing. "It will not be easy. But we are still on their trail in the village." The bell fell silent, leaving behind only sighs, tears, and a heavy silence. The snowleaf cubs were the first victims of a threat that was only just beginning. And the forest, in its eternal silence, seemed to look at everyone with a final warning. The battle between light and shadow had not ended, but had only just begun. Chapter 14. The Owl's Signal. The day that had begun with the collapse of silence in the village of the 7 trees suddenly became a whirlwind of preparations, shouts, and hurried steps. The news of the kidnapping of the Leary and Sen cubs had spread like a flame out of control, and above the village, at the top of the 4 watchtowers, the owls spread their large wings, ready to trigger their most powerful alarm signal, the echo circle. It was an old ritual, used only in extreme situations, when danger was imminent or when a member of the village was in mortal danger. Each owl, through its high position, had the role of catching and amplifying the sound of the other, forming a perfect echo that woke the entire forest. The 4 sound spirals met in the air, merged and rolled far beyond the village limits, reaching the clearings far away, to the 𝕭𝐻𝐿 River and even to the hidden corners of the Mida Forest.It was not just a signal for help, it was a call to arms. The first to trigger the loud sound was the old owl 𝖭𝐻𝐿𝖍 from the northern tower. With her silver-gray feathers and imposing yellow eyes, she raised her wings and let out a cry, clear as broken crystal. 𝕭𝖎𝖌𝖎. The sound flowed through the air like a visible wave. Immediately, from the southern tower, the young night watchman, 𝖁𝖎𝖙, took over the vibration and amplified it. 𝕭𝖎𝖌𝖎. On the eastern side, his sister 𝕬𝐿𝐻 answered firmly. 𝕬𝐿. And from the west, old 𝖁𝖎𝖙, the strongest of them, completed the circle. 𝕬𝖎𝖻. In just a few seconds, the entire village was immersed in an unusual sound wave, which made the leaves tremble and the ground vibrate slightly. The chicks gathered scared under their parents' wings, and the adults looked up at the sky. The owl's signal had spread everywhere. It was clear to everyone. The village was in a state of emergency. The Jako parrots, who had slept too little, woke up frightened by the noise on the branches of the trees. Dozens of pairs of black eyes suddenly opened. "What's happening?" shouted a young parrot. "Wolves." "It's the wolf signal," replied another Jako, older. "Everyone up. Everyone in the air," ordered their leader 𝕮𝖎𝖌𝖌𝖊𝖄, a parrot with a fluffy chest and wide wings. In a few moments, the sky was filled with colorful silhouettes. Red, yellow, green, purple, all the colors rose in fast, synchronized flights. Every time the owls resumed the signal, the Jakos took it over with short, sharp cries, like arrows piercing the air. Kra, kra. You see the edge of the forest. Kra. The village became a whirlwind of sounds, calls, responses, orders. Everything was on alert, and the center of the village, 𝕁𝖐𝖐, the leader of the rabbits and the leader of the entire community, had already gathered his team of fighters. He had the posture of a born warrior, with his ears raised, his muscles tense and his green eyes furrowed with determination. "All fighting rabbits, forward. This is not an exercise." His firm voice cut through the air like a blade. From the shadows of the trees emerged medium and large rabbits, trained in defensive combat. 𝖁𝖎𝖏, fast and strong. 𝕬𝖌𝑟𝑖s, master of high jumps. 𝕬𝐿𝐻, the most agile of the females. And 𝕬𝐿, the group's strategist. Together they formed the heart of the village's army. "What orders do we have, leader 𝕁𝖐𝖐?" 𝕬𝖌𝑟𝑖s asked. "The owls have detected new movement to the northeast. The pack of 4 is moving quickly." The Jako parrots confirmed the direction. "The snowleaf chicks are still alive. We must reach them before it is too late." That moment, an owl descended in gentle flight, stopping a few steps from 𝕁𝖐𝖐. It was 𝖭𝐻𝐿𝐿𝖍. "𝕁𝖐𝐻," she said in a deep voice, "I saw shadows moving near the thick forest. The wolves are leading the chicks to their territory. Time is our enemy." "I understand," said 𝕁𝖐𝐻. Then he raised his voice to the teams. "𝖁𝖎𝖏, 𝕬𝖌𝑟𝑖s, 𝕬𝐿𝐻, go forward to the great oak path. 𝕬𝐿, you stay by my side. We need your quick eyes." From a distance, the Jako parrots were approaching in perfect formation, like an arrow in flight. 𝕮𝖎𝖌𝖌𝖊𝖄 sat on a branch above the leader. "𝕁𝖐𝐻, I saw movement to the west as well. It could just be a diversion." Wolves are smart. That's exactly why I need you in the air, answered the rabbit. Then to everyone. Listen to me carefully. The owls hold the sky, the jocos watch the edges, and we enter the forest. We don't separate. We don't lose focus. Today we save 2 chicks and show the pack who is the master of this part of the forest. The rabbit's approving hooting was immediately followed by another cry from the owls. 𝖭𝖎𝖛, 𝖭𝖎𝖛. The signal rolled over the village again. The sky vibrated, and the trees trembled slightly, as if they understood the importance of the moment. Luna, who had remained with Looney and Cece, felt the tension rising in the entire community. The remaining snow leaf cubs were crying, and Fina from the Sunray family was trying to calm Loom, Lammy and Lano, who were panicking at the signals. Don't be afraid, Luna told them gently. But the others are the best too. No one will leave the snow leaf cubs in the hands of the wolves. Looney was trembling, but her gaze they were burning. I would go too. I know, Luna whispered to her. But you are needed here. Above them, the owls continued to beat their wings, strengthening the signal, and the parrots made rapid circles, watching for any suspicious movement at the edge of the forest. 𝖁𝖎𝖏 stopped suddenly. They passed by here 10 minutes ago, said Corbon. Lyrus approached, analyzing. Yes, and they are not the only traces. Other creatures passed, but we do not know if they are friends or not. 𝖭𝖎𝖙 descended from the air once more. 𝖁𝖎𝖏. The wolves have separated. 𝕮𝖍𝖎 and Brum are carrying the cubs. 𝕁𝖎𝖏𝖏 and Vera are covering them. 𝖁𝖎𝖏 gritted his teeth. A difficult race awaits us. But we are prepared. He turned to the fighters. We are moving forward. We do not lose another moment. Owls. Jako. The signal remains active until the chicks are recovered. 𝖭𝖎𝖛, answered the owls. 𝖭𝖎𝖏, screamed the parrots, and so, with the forest vibrating with sounds, with the sky full of wings, and with the heart of the village beating in a war rhythm, the real rescue race began, signal as old as the forest had risen. When the owls cry, the whole world wakes up, and the village of the 7 trees was now more awake than ever. Chapter 15. The Preparation of Heroes. The morning that followed the restless night slowly dawned over the village of the 7 trees, bringing with it a pale, cold light that seemed afraid to touch the ground. The Mida Forest floated in a dense, almost oppressive silence, as if all the creatures understood the gravity of the situation. Although the sun was rising, the village had not brightened. Everyone knew that 2 cubs, Leary and Sen, were still missing, carried away by the pack of the ford in the center of the village. Near the tall shadow of the white tree, 𝖁𝖎𝖏 stood silently, looking at the map of the forest carved in old bark. His ears trembled slightly, betraying the inattention. His green gaze followed the paths, mentally marking the possible paths of the wolves. But 𝖁𝖎𝖏 was not only the head of the village, he was the leader who had had the strength to protect the community from years. But for the first time, the wolf attack seemed better organized, more intelligent, more daring. Behind him, determined footsteps approached. It was Daryl, the fighting rabbit, imposing as a rock. His brown fur, often dusty from his runs through the forest, was now carefully combed. He came without a word, but in his dark eyes burned a flame of righteous anger. But he said hoarsely, I'm ready. Just tell me when we're going. A few steps away, Oren, the village's intelligent rabbit, was already studying a set of objects scattered on a table. Small maps, thin ropes woven from hard grass, hooks, 3 walnut shells carved into lanterns, and 5 smooth, shiny stones. His blue eyes flashed rapidly, absorbing every detail. But I have analyzed the possible routes. The wolves tend to avoid the North Rift, so they either go around it or go through the glade of shadows. In either case, we have an advantage. But nodded. Okay. But we have to be faster than them. None of the three had yet said out loud the fear that weighed on their chests. The cubs could not withstand the cold for long, and Rager's pack was merciless. That moment, a very familiar step was heard, light, but firm. The architect of the village, the creator of the 7 houses, was approaching with an unusually serious expression. He was holding a small bark box, tied at the ends with ropes. Luna, coming a few steps behind, was looking at him with a mixture of concern and pride. But, said Noel, picking up the box, before you leave, I need to show you something. But he turned to him. Noel, we are preparing for a difficult journey. Now is not the time for inventions. But his tone was not quarrelsome. He knew Noel. Everything he brought was useful, sometimes life-saving. Noel opened the box. Inside, 4 small, round, flat objects gleamed, each made of a different wood. An oak disc, an alder disc, a pine disc, and an ebony disc. What are they? Oren asks, fascinated. The tree beats, Noel replied. I have been working on them for months, never knowing that a day like this would come. He approached and placed a disc in Indar's palm. Each disc is tied to a tree in the village. When you press it, it makes a sound that only the mother tree recognizes, and the vibration reaches the others. Indar raises an eyebrow. You mean, we can communicate? Exactly, Noel replied. If you press it once, it sends a short signal. Twice, a long signal. 3, a danger signal. That's how the owls and the jocos know that you're alive. Daryl, who wasn't easily impressed, was speechless for a few moments. You mean, we'll be able to tell you that we found tracks? Or that we need help? Or... Yes, Daryl. Exactly. Noel then looked at Indar, his eyes full of determination. I don't want to stand on the sidelines. I can't. These cubs, I've seen them grow. I can help you. I know the paths, I know the trees, and most importantly, I know how wolves think. Indar looked at him for a few long seconds. You built the village. Without you, we would have nowhere to live. Maybe it's time you looked at what you were protecting. Okay, Noel. Come with us. Luna took a deep breath, taking a step back. Her gaze was a struggle between fear and respect for Noel's courage. Be careful, she whispered. Always, he replied with a brief smile, then touched her paw lightly. Daryl began to fasten his paw pads, small pieces of hard bark, glued together with twisted grass. They had helped him get through bushes, jump over rocks and hold off wolves when necessary. Oren put on his explorer's bag, full of his strange, sometimes funny, but always useful objects. You never know when you might need a shiny stone or a thin rope, he always said. But he prepared his beechwood staff, the symbol of the leader. He didn't use it to fight, but to open paths and keep the team together. A leader was not just a warrior, he was a heart that beat for everyone. Noel took his small toolkit, a chisel, a string, a small candle, and a bone nail. Maybe we won't fight, but maybe I need to fix something. Build something. Improvise something. The Mida Forest is unpredictable. While they prepared, the village had gathered around. Families whispered, the chicks watched with wide eyes, and the owls in the towers continued to watch. Brian and Looney, the parents of the kidnapped chicks, stood glued to each other. They were shaking, but they weren't crying. Every tear would have meant a bad thought towards the 2 children, and they needed hope more than ever. But, take care of them, 𝕿𝖐𝖊𝖊𝖘 begged him in a torn voice. We will bring them back, said the leader with a certainty that made everyone breathe easier. No rabbit had ever seen 𝕁𝖊𝖌𝖊 hesitate. After everything was ready, 𝖁𝖎𝖙 approached Noel with an unexpected question. What idea do you say you brought? Not just the discs. Something else, right? Noel smiled mysteriously. Yes, but I will tell you on the way. It is an idea for the wolves, not for us. 𝕁𝖊𝖌 pricked up his ears, intrigued. I hope it is not a risky one. All good ideas are risky, Noel answered calmly. But, I think we can resolve the conflict without a fight. 𝕁𝖊𝖌 raised an eyebrow. Do you think the wolves can be convinced to give up? Not if we ask them to, said Noel. Then he closed the box of discs. But maybe, if we offer them something. Daryl stopped in his tracks. Offer something? Wolves. Well, what could they? Noel raised his hand. A place. What? 𝖁𝖎𝖙 asked. I'll build them a house. He said it with a naturalness that made the others fall silent in amazement. A house for wolves? Daryl repeated, almost confused. Yes. Wolves attack because they don't have a stable territory. If we offer them a protected place, maybe they won't see the village as an enemy anymore. But he slowly put his paw to his chin, carefully analyzing each word. Noel, your idea is crazy. Noel completed him. Yes, maybe. But maybe it's exactly what we need. But take a deep breath. If this can stop a war, then we will 𝕊𝖊𝖌𝖎. The first rays of morning intensified, for rabbits now perched on the edge of the village made their last salutes. The owls in the towers flapped their wings in a sign of respect. The Jako parrots watched them carefully from the air. The families trembled, but they watched with hope. But 𝕁𝖊𝖌𝖊 raised his staff to the sky. We are leaving. For 𝕬𝖆𝖌 and 𝖁. The others shouted. In an instant, the four heroes disappeared into the thickets of the Mida Forest, leaving behind the village, the hopes and the lights that still danced on the flowers of the trees. Their mission had begun. And that day would decide the fate not only of the cubs, but of the entire forest. Chapter 16. The Road Through Mida Forest. The Mida Forest welcomes 𝕁𝖊𝖌, Daryl, 𝖁𝖎𝖙 and Noel with a heavy, almost unnatural silence. The morning light barely manages to penetrate the huge crowns of the trees, leaving only thin, trembling strips, like golden ribbons scattered on the damp earth. Each ray seems to dance among the shadows, but the heroes know all too well that the beauty of the forest is deceptive. Mida is a place full of mysteries, where every step can reveal an unexpected danger. 𝕁𝖊𝖌 walks forward, leaning on his 𝕿𝖎𝖌𝖊 staff. His long ears are always raised, vibrating with every rustle. Daryl, always ready for battle, steps carefully, with a sharp gaze and tense muscles. 𝖁𝖎𝖙, thoughtful and calculating, notes in his mind every detail of the road, convinced that any information could become useful. And Noel, the gentle-hearted architect, looks around with a combination of concern and fascination, trying to understand how he could transform danger into peace. The first obstacle appears shortly after entering the forest. The deaf ravine 𝐻 is a deep rift in the ground, with steep walls covered in slippery moss. Its name comes from the strange way in which sounds disappear near the chasm. No matter how much you shout, your voice is swallowed immediately, as if the air itself were absorbing every vibration. We have to be careful here, says 𝕁𝖊𝖌𝖊, making a sign to stop. The ground is unstable. Noel bends down and analyzes the edge of the ravine with his builder's eyes. We can cross, but we have to be quick. The ground is soft on the right side. It's not safe there. Daryl looks down, feeling a cold shiver. And if someone falls? Oren looks up calmly. No one falls. We tie ourselves to this rope. We go one by one. Oren's plan is immediately put into effect, but the first one passes, with a sure step. Then Daryl, who at one point slips, but the rope keeps him balanced. Noel, although the least used to adventures, crosses with calculated care. Oren remains the last and looks back for a moment, towards the village, imagining the frightened faces of the Snowleaf family. We have to find them, he says to himself, before stepping on the other side too. After the Deaf Ravine, the forest begins to light up slightly. The leaves open and a vast glade appears in their path, bathed in a sweet, golden light. The Glade of Echoes is one of the most bizarre places in Mida. Here, every sound multiplies into dozens of whispers, as if the forest were speaking. Be careful, says Daryl, it's easy to get lost here after an echo. Oren nods. He's heard the stories since he was a child, rabbits who followed their own echoing footsteps of their voices and ended up wandering around for days without finding a way out. As they step into the clearing, echoes of their footsteps, their breathing, their rustling can be heard. At one point, a faint hissing is repeated dozens of times, like a distorted song. But he raises a paw. It's just the wind, he reassures his companions, although he himself is not completely convinced. Noel, however, seems delighted by the beauty of the place. He approaches the small purple flowers that cover the ground and listens as their rustling turns into a playful chorus. If we weren't on a mission, I'd stay here and project something, he mutters. Daryl laughs briefly, a laugh that multiplies into 10 more laughs. Then you should hear this all day. Crossing the clearing takes time, because they have to ignore the false calls created by the echoes. But he constantly tells them to fix their gaze on a single tree at the edge. Finally, after a few stressful minutes, they emerge from the deceptive area. The road becomes more difficult as they approach the deepest part of the forest. Here is the wizard tree, a huge tree, with a twisted trunk and full of strange knots, like hidden faces. It is said that this tree has the ability to show you illusions, to project fears or desires into the minds of those who get too close. Don't look at the trunk, 𝖁𝖍 warns. Just look at the ground in front of you. If you feel anything strange, ignore it. Daryl bites his lower lip. And if the illusion is too strong? Then we'll pull you back, Oren says. As they approach the massive trunk, the air seems to turn cold, though there's no wind. Noel keeps his eyes down, but out of the corner of his eye he sees a blue light flickering through the tree's knots. He's scared. It looks like the crystal heart in his tree. But he knows it's just an illusion. It's not real, he whispers to himself. But even the wisest, he also feels a strange pressure in his mind. He hears a faint voice, like an old lost friend. But he keeps walking. His staff beats the ground rhythmically, keeping him anchored in reality. Daryl feels he sees the silhouette of a wolf approaching. His hand runs for his spear, but Oren stops him. It's not real, we continue. The tree seems to spin around them, although their feet remain on the same path. It's all a confusion of the senses, a test of inner strength. But finally, after a few minutes that seem like hours, he leaves the tree's area of influence. Wizard. Well, says Daryl, taking a deep breath. It was intense. Noel nods, still trembling. But we are still together. That is what matters. Once freed from their illusions, the heroes stop in a quieter area to catch their breath. The air is warmer, the leaves rustle gently. but they look at the others with a mixture of pride and concern. The little ones are somewhere here, we just have to be careful. 𝖭𝖎𝖙 bends down and examines the ground. Among the animal tracks, he finds two small, trembling footprints. 𝖭𝖎𝖙 and 𝖁 were taken here. They are alive. And they are not far away. Daryl grips his spear tighter. Then we quicken our pace. Noel, however, musters the courage to propose what has been tormenting him for a long time. When we find the wolves, I want to try something different. I don't want to fight, I want to talk to them. Daryl looks at him in amazement. The wolves aren't listening, Noel. Yes, if no one has spoken to them before. Maybe it's time to start. But he looks at him long and hard, like a proud father of a brave son. Your idea could bring peace, or it could fail. But it's worth a try. The heroes gather their supplies and continue on their way. The Mida Forest seems darker and darker, but they don't stop. I know that every step takes them closer to the two kidnapped cubs, but also to the inevitable meeting with the pack of 4 wolves. The road through the forest has put them to the test, tested their minds, courage and friendship. And now they are ready for what comes next. Because nothing is stronger than a heart united by a single purpose, saving the little ones. Chapter 17. The Wolves' Den. For Indar, Daryl, 𝖭𝖎𝖙 and Noel, the path through the Mida Forest becomes increasingly difficult as they advance deeper into it. The air is thick, almost motionless, and the deep silence that hangs through the trees betrays the fact that they are approaching the pack's territory. The birds no longer sing, the wind no longer rustles, and the light seems to slowly fade, as if in an artificial twilight meant to take possession of the souls of those who dare to enter here. Noel is the first to feel that they are not far away. Strange pressure presses on his chest, and instinct tells him that the pack is already noticing them, even if his eyes cannot see anything yet. Daryl holds his spear ready, 𝖭𝖎𝖙 sharpens his senses, and Indar steps calmly but resolutely, his staff in his right hand. You all know, he whispers, that soon we will be face to face with them. Let's not forget. Our goal is to save the little ones, not to start a war. Daryl grits his teeth. If the wolves attack us, we have no choice. But he puts a paw on his shoulder. I know, but Noel has come up with an idea that could change everything. Let's give them a chance. Noel feels his heart pounding. He believed in his idea, but now, when the danger is so close, a shiver of doubt runs through him. However, he doesn't give up. He knows that wolves are not evil by nature. They are just hungry. And when hunger strikes, any creature becomes desperate. The last trees of the clearing open up into a lower area, where the ground is covered with rotten leaves and deeper prints. Long scratches can be seen on the tree trunks, a sign that the wolves have marked their territory. Narrow path leads to a moss-covered peak. There, in a place that is difficult to see from a distance, is the pack's den. Daryl immediately notices the tracks. It's recent. Very recent. They're close. 𝖭𝖎𝖙 kneels and analyzes. 3 large tracks. One smaller and more elegant, 𝕊𝖎𝖙𝖊𝖊 and the 3 wolves. But Indar looks up at a dark opening between the roots of a huge oak tree. There they are. The approach of the den makes the air heavy. Parts of the forest are lost in darkness, and a heavy animal smell floats around, smell of wet fur, cold earth and prey. Noel stops. If they're there, and if they've already sensed us? They sensed us, Indar confirms. 𝕭𝖎𝖙𝖍 that moment, a pair of yellow eyes shine from the darkness. Then another, and another. 3 pairs, all at ground level, and a 4th set of eyes, larger, brighter, appears at a higher point, near the opening of the burrow. The pack is there, waiting for them. The pack shows itself. 𝕬𝖎𝖑, the largest of the wolves, emerges first from the shadows. His gray fur is shaggy, his fangs are shining, and his gaze is cold, calculated. He does not have the fury of a wild animal, but the silent intelligence of a leader. Behind him appears 𝕁𝖎𝖏𝖏, the thin and agile wolf, with narrow eyes and quick movements, like a shadow ready to disappear at any moment. 𝕁𝖏𝖏 comes the last of the males, massive, with dark fur, breathing heavily, like a stone descending to the valley. And next to the opening of the den, elegant and imposing, stands 𝕁𝖏𝖏, the she-wolf. Her silver fur seems to reflect every strand of light, and her eyes are a piercing blue. It is clear that she is the brain of the pack, the one who observes, analyzes, and decides. Daryl sticks his spear into the ground, ready to attack. Noel touches his arm, stopping him. Not yet. 𝕬𝖎𝖏 growls briefly, a deep vibration that makes the ground seem to tremble. But he takes a step forward, raising his staff in a gesture of greeting, not attack. 𝕬𝖎𝖏, he begins calmly, we came to retrieve 2 cubs. Vera emerges from the den and steps toward them. Her gaze is sharp, direct. They are hungry, she says suddenly. Her voice is a strange combination of strength and sadness. I didn't hurt you, I didn't hurt them. But I took what I found. Oren swallows hard. 𝕬𝖎𝖏𝖏. Are they okay? Vera nods. They are alive. But if the pack doesn't eat, they won't last much longer. Daryl can't stand the tension anymore. You can take something else. Anything else. Not our cubs. 𝕁𝖏𝖏 takes a step forward, growling menacingly. Silenced or I'll make you shut up. But he raises a paw. Quiet. We didn't come to fight. Vera stops just a few steps from the rabbits. Her scent of cold earth and forest envelopes them. Her breathing is heavy. It is clear that the entire pack is weakened by hunger. Noel's eyes fill with compassion. I can help, he says softly. I can offer you a house. The pack looks at him without understanding. 𝕬𝖎𝖏 grins. 𝕁𝖎𝖏 laughs briefly. A house. What are we going to do with a house? We are born in the forest. A house where you can no longer hunt through villages, a place where you can have food, a real shelter. Vera blinks in surprise. You are talking about something that does not exist. Not yet, Noel says. But it may exist. Daryl looks at him in amazement. Are you sure about that? Yes, that's the only way. The wolves are not our enemies. They are just desperate. But 𝕁𝖎𝖏 takes a step forward. We will take the cubs back. But we do not want to leave as enemies. 𝕬𝖎𝖏 approaches Noel, almost touching him with his muzzle. Noel holds his breath. A house for my pack? Asks the wolf. Yes. And food. 𝕬𝖎𝖏's eyes narrow. If you lie, architect, we will find you. You and your entire village. Noel keeps his gaze steady. I am not lying. Vera gives a discreet nod. From the den, 2 small whimpers are heard. 𝕁𝖎𝖏 enters and emerges carrying 𝕬𝖎𝖏, who are trembling, but unharmed. He places them between 𝕁𝖎𝖏 the rabbit and Oren. Oren immediately embraces them. I'm fine. I'm fine. Breathe. Breathe. But it's tearing up. Thank you, Vera. The she-wolf turns around. Don't make the mistake of thinking we're weak. We're just tired. If the architect's promise doesn't come true. He doesn't finish the sentence. But no one needs to. Everyone understands. With the puppies recovered, The rabbits take a few steps back, but they feel the wolves' gazes on the back of their heads, and no one relaxes. Neither the wolves nor the rabbits believe in peace yet. It's just a beginning, small step in an uncertain world. Noel stops. I'll be back tomorrow. With the plans. With my promise. Vera nods. 𝕬𝖎𝖑𝖏 retreats back into the darkness of the den. 𝕁𝖎𝖏𝖏 and 𝕁𝖊𝖛 disappear after him. And the forest remains in its silent silence, witnessing a historic moment, the first peace dialogue between a village of rabbits and a pack of wolves. But 𝕁𝖎𝖏 takes a deep breath. Now the real challenge begins. And with the cubs in their arms, with Noel's whispered promise still echoing in the air, they return to the village. Behind them, the wolf den flickers in the darkness like an open wound in the body of the Mida Forest. But perhaps, for the first time in its history, a wound ready to heal. Chapter 18. Noel's Proposal. The moment 𝕬𝖏𝖏 and 𝖁 were brought to the entrance of the den, the world seemed to have held its breath. But Daryl, Oren, and Noel could feel the tension still tightening the air of the forest, even though the two cubs were finally in their arms. The wolves had not yet retreated, and their gazes seemed ready to sever any tenuous bond of peace. The ground was still hard, the pale light barely filtered through the branches, and the atmosphere was charged with a mixture of fear, caution, and hope. Noel was aware that at that moment a new path was opening. If he left now with the recovered cubs, the wolves could attack again at any time, hungry and desperate. And the village, although well guarded, would have lived in constant fear. The thought weighed on him. He didn't want a world where rabbits and wolves chased each other endlessly, in an endless cycle, so, instead of taking a step back with the others, Noel stayed put. He took a deep breath. He felt Vera's intense gaze, those blue eyes that seemed to see beyond his white fur, beyond his trembling breath. The she-wolf analyzed his every gesture, every breath, every intention. Vera, he begins, but his voice breaks for a moment. The pack reacts immediately. 𝕬𝖎𝖏 tenses his muscles, 𝕁𝖎𝖏𝖏 lays his ears back, and 𝕁𝖊𝖛 lets out a deep, menacing growl. Only Vera remains motionless, her gaze fixed. Noel clears his voice, feeling 𝕁𝖎𝖏 from behind, lightly touch his shoulder in a silent attempt to calm him. I would like to talk before we leave. The she-wolf's eyes narrow. Then speak, architect. But be careful what you say. Noel swallows hard. We do not want to live at war with you. We do not want you to hunt through the village. And we do not want our cubs to ever be in danger again. 𝕁𝖏𝖏 takes a step forward, but Vera raises a pointed eyebrow at him. The massive wolf stops immediately. The hungry don't choose, 𝕁𝖏𝖏 says in a deep voice. But they can be helped, Noel replies. 𝕁𝖎𝖏𝖏 laughs, a short, almost mocking laugh. Help us. Some rabbits. Noel looks up. His mind suddenly becomes clear. Yes, us. Because in this forest, no matter how different we are, every creature has the right to shelter and food. Vera blinks. The first sign that his words seem to surprise her. And what do you propose? She asks. Noel takes a deep breath, clears his throat, and says, in a steady voice, more determined than he had expected. I'm building you a house. Silence falls over the lair like a huge stone. 𝕬𝖎𝖏 tilts his head to the side, analyzing it as if it were a mystery. 𝕁𝖎𝖏𝖏 wrinkles his muzzle, incredulous. 𝕁𝖁𝖏 groans softly, as if between anger and confusion. And Vera raises an eyebrow, then takes 3 steps towards Noel. Her gaze becomes incredibly penetrating. A house. For us. Yes, Noel answers with a lump in his throat, a real house, in the heart of the forest, safe, well-made structure, with a strong roof, with thick walls made of tree trunks, with safety exits, place for all four of us. And for future cubs, if you want. Vera's eyes widen very slightly. Just for a moment, an emotion that is hard to define washes over her cold gaze. Maybe surprise. Maybe memory. Maybe a hidden pain. Why would you do that? She asks almost in a whisper. Noel slightly raises his shoulders. Because I know what a home means, that I know what it means to have a place to return to. And if you have such a place, the village will no longer be in danger. Daryl, from behind, looks at his brother with a mixture of pride and amazement. Oren brings his 2 rescued cubs closer to him. But he nods. Noel's proposal is not just for you, it's for the entire forest. 𝕬𝖎𝖑𝖑 takes a step forward. His fangs gleam, his muscles clenched like stiff knots. And what do you want in return? He asks, his tone a mixture of skepticism and cold calculation. Just that, not to hurt any more rabbits. Any animals in the village. Not to attack anymore. Respect the peace of the forest and its choices. 𝕁𝖁𝖏𝖏 shakes his head. That's against nature. Vera touches him with a paw, stopping him. Maybe nature has tired us, 𝕁𝖁𝖏𝖏, she says calmly. Maybe it's time to change something. If this architect's promise is real, this could be our chance. Brum gives a dirty growl. Wolves don't have houses, we have dens, hollows, hideouts, that's the order of the world. Noel shakes his head. That's how it was, but that doesn't mean it always has to be that way. The Mida Forest is big, full of spaces that can be transformed. If I build you a place where you can live in peace, where you have food, where no one will attack you, you will no longer have a reason to hunt baby rabbits. 𝕬𝖎𝖑𝖑 puts his weight on his hind legs. Food. What kind of food can you offer us? I will bring small animals that I will raise, a few families of birds, maybe even a few old rabbits that can't live in the wild, or supplies from the village. In hard times, we will never offer chicken, but we can create a system in which you will not suffer from hunger. 𝕁𝖁𝖏𝖏 rolls his eyes. You have come to negotiate with wolves as if you were negotiating with architects or merchants. Vera, however, remains attentive. What guarantee do we have that you are not lying? Noel inhales, places his hand on his chest and speaks with solemn clarity. I am the architect of the village. I have built 7 houses for 7 families. And I can build one for you too. This is my promise, made in the Mida Forest, before your eyes. I do not value thoughtless words. Vera takes another step closer, so close that Noel feels the heat of her breath. She looks deeply into his eyes. Your promise could cost you your life. I know. And yet you do it. Yes. Another moment of silence, long, heavy. From the den comes a faint sound, the whine of a young wolf, perhaps a cub that the pack is hiding. Vera turns her head towards the sound, then looks at Noel again. Then, I accept. 𝕬𝖎𝖑𝖑 turns his head suddenly towards her. Vera. I accept if he builds us a house, if he brings us food. We will stop attacking, no more rabbits will fall into our mouths, no animal in the village. 𝕁𝖁𝖏𝖏 bursts forward. And if he lies to us? Vera stares into space, then says calmly. Then we will find him. Him and all his people. Noel doesn't move. I won't lie to you. But take a deep breath. It's settled then. Daryl approaches Noel. Are you sure about what you're doing? Noel smiles slightly, for the first time since they arrived at the den. Yes, and I think this is the beginning of true peace. Vera turns to her pack. Go, rabbits. Take the chicks home. Tomorrow, we await the architect's plans. 𝕬𝖎𝖑𝖏 retreats back into the darkness, 𝕁𝖎𝖏 disappears among the leaves. Brum sits at the entrance like a massive guard. Vera pauses for a moment, looking back. Don't forget, Noel. You promised. I know. And so, for the first time in the history of the Mida Forest, peace begins not by sword, not by flight, but by a promise. And the architect Noel's promise begins to change the fate of the entire land. Chapter 19. The House of Wolves. The sun spread its early rays over the Mida Forest, melting the dew from the leaves and coloring the air with a warm, yellowish light. It was a calm morning, although all the inhabitants of the forest knew that this day would be a historic one. For the first time in the history of the Nale land, a rabbit was going to build a house for a pack of wolves. And not just any rabbit, but the village architect, Noel, the one who had given life to the 7 tree houses, the bridge over the 𝕭𝐻𝑎d and the watchtowers and the village. The news of the release of the white cubs and the pact with the pack had spread quickly. Many of the rabbits still looked fearfully towards the shadows of the forest, but a seed of trust had begun to grow. And that seed bore the name of Noel. Noel woke up early. While Luna prepared a simple breakfast for the family, he gathered his tools into a backpack made of hardened leaf leather, the bone saw, the black stone hammer, the ropes of wild vines, and a few pieces of clay and natural tar, perfect for insulating the walls. Nino and Nina watched him with wide eyes, shining with curiosity and pride. Dad, are you really going to build a house for the wolves? Nino asked, impressed. Yes, Noel answered gently. I made a promise. And an architect, but also a fair rabbit, keeps his promises. But what if they get angry? What if they attack again? Nina worried, as she clasped her long tail between her paws. Then we will know that they did not want peace, but we must try our best to keep it, said Noel, stroking their heads. The forest is bigger than fear. There is room for everyone. After breakfast, Noel left accompanied by Indar, Daryl, and Oren. The 3 rabbits accompanied him not only for protection, but also because they wanted to witness the beginning of a new era in the forest. The road to the place where the wolf house was to be built led them to the eastern edge of the Mida Forest, where the terrain was rocky but warm, and the sun's rays reached even on the coldest days. Here it is, Noel said, stopping in front of a large clearing. The ground is solid, close to the hot springs, and the rocks can warm the house in the winter. Daryl crossed his paws and agreed. It's the best place. Wolves love the warmth in their bones after a hunt. Oren, always attentive to detail, added. It's also far enough from the village to avoid tension, but close enough that we can get there quickly if they need help. But look to the sky. The forest seems quiet today. That's a good sign. Noel bent down and drew an outline in the ground with his finger. It was in the shape of a semicircle with a delicately extended roof, like a whale's rib. Wolves had large bodies and muscular necks, so the entrance had to be wide and high to the back. Noel had planned a small tunnel, similar to a gallery, that the wolves could use as a secret entrance or a place of shelter in case of strong storms. It will be a roundhouse, he said, standing up. Wolves are not used to corners and straight walls. They live in burrows, in organic, natural spaces. If we want them to feel safe, we must create a place for them that reminds them of their burrow, but much more solid. The team of rabbits began to gather the necessary materials. Noel personally selected the massive logs. The blue spruce wood was perfect, dense, resistant, and had the ability to retain heat. With Indar's help, they cut 4 thick logs that Noel joined together in an arch shape. The wood creaked under the strain, but in a pleasant way, as if it was eager to become part of the new construction. Then they brought in the warm stone, also known as the whisper stone, because when it was heated in the sun, it made a faint murmur, almost like an animal's purr. The wolves would love this. The stones formed the heart of the house, a small central core where the heat could be retained at night. Do you want to make them a resting area as well? Daryl asked, watching Noel place the stones. Yes. The wolves sleep close together, Noel said. The distance scares them. We will create a soft platform for them, made of sturdy grass and compacted earth, just like they would have in a den. Oren, fascinated as usual, began to write in a small bark notebook, drawing and calculating dimensions. That's incredible, Noel. You don't just build a house. You build a bridge. Noel smiled, without stopping his work. Around noon, when the sun had reached its highest point, the wolf pack appeared. They didn't come very close. There was still distrust in their eyes, but it was clear that they were curious. Vera was the one who came the closest. Her green eyes followed Noel's every move. "What are you doing there?" she asked, although her tone was more curious than threatening. "I'm building for you," Noel said sincerely. 𝕬𝖎𝖑 walked beside her, carefully studying the round shape, the bent trunks, the grass platform. "It looks like a burrow," he said. "But it's more strong." "Yes," Noel smiled. "Because you're strong too. You deserve a place made for you, not just found." 𝕁𝖆𝖛𝖊𝖓 also approached in silence. The wolves moved cautiously, but also with an emotion that was hard to hide. "Can we help?" 𝖊𝖓 asked unexpectedly. Noel looked up, surprised. But he smiled. "Yes, I would really appreciate it." For the first time, rabbits and wolves worked side by side. The wolves brought large stones that the rabbits could never have carried alone. The rabbits tied the ropes and cut the wood with precision. The wolves dug trenches for the foundation with their claws, and the rabbits leveled the ground. Tea was an unexpected dance of collaboration. Towards evening, the wolves' house began to take shape. The massive trunks rose in a perfect arch, and the walls of woven wood and sturdy grass formed a sturdy circle. The entrance was wide, and inside the warm stones still retained the sunlight. 𝕬𝖎𝖑 stepped inside first. He took a deep breath. The air smelled of wood, warmth, and safety. "It's okay," he said softly, as if he was afraid of being too honest. Vera followed him in, and a shiver ran through her. "It's beautiful." 𝕁𝖆𝖛𝖊𝖓 sat down by the walls, feeling for the first time in a place made for them, not just found. Noel wiped his forehead and said, modestly, "It's just the beginning. We'll improve it. We'll decorate it with soft moss and colored stones. It will be your home." But, looking at the scene, he whispered, "You've made something bigger than a house, Noel." And Noel understood what he meant. He had built a bridge, not just between species, but between hopes. When the sun had completely set, and night was slowly falling over the Mida Forest, the wolf pack settled into their new home for the first time. A rare peace reigned in the air. And in the village, the white rabbit cubs slept peacefully. The wolf house was not just a shelter. It was a beginning. Chapter 20. Acceptance in the Forest. The entire forest seemed to breathe differently the day the wolf house was finished. The air had had a strange weight in the days before, as if every tree, every muscle, and every creature had been tense, awaiting a verdict that no one had pronounced, but that everyone felt. And now, when the last trunk had been fixed, when the last blades of resistant grass had been laid like a living blanket over the roof, the forest had not calmed down. On the contrary, it vibrated. Of fear, of uncertainty, of curiosity. Noel knew that this would be the hardest chapter, not the construction, not the organization of the wolves, but convincing the forest that the wolves would not be a danger. But the wolves looked around with their intelligent and unusually calm eyes. They understood enough to know that they were no longer hunted, but not enough to forget their instincts. They had gathered and they were walking around their new home and sniffing the air, which was filled with dozens of scents of fear. The first to dare to approach were the deer. With trembling legs, their ears raised like sensitive antennae, they stepped into the clearing that had been, until recently, forbidden to anyone but birds. They saw the wolves standing quietly, not growling, not running, not hiding. The wolves were home. For the first time in the history of the forest, a territory that belonged to a predator was becoming an open place, a place understood, not feared. "I can't believe that," whispered a young deer with barely grown antlers. "Maybe it's a trap," muttered another. But the old buck, the one who had gone through 3 hard winters and 2 plagues, nodded slowly. "I don't sense anything wrong with them," he said. "And we know what despair smells like." They don't. Meanwhile, the foxes had hidden themselves among the roots of an old beech tree, their red muzzles poking out of the shadows. They were the most suspicious creatures in the forest, and rightly so. The wolves had in the past stolen their game, chased them from their dens, and sometimes even killed them. "Don't be a trick of Noel," whispered a thin, bushy-tailed fox. "The white hair doesn't lie," replied the old fox, the one with the amber eyes. But the wolves, they must learn. And higher up, on a branch, 2 owls were discussing gravely, as if they were judging a centuries-old trial. The birds felt the changes before anyone else, the vibrations of the new balance reaching their feathers like a gentle electric current. "If wolves have shelter and food, they will stop hunting wildly," said the first owl, turning its head at an impressive angle. "But can they be educated?" asked the other. "A house does not change instinct." They were both right, and that was precisely the great question of the forest. Night came early, with a milky sky without stars, as if the sky itself was listening to the tension below. The wolves had not gone anywhere. They were standing around their house, some lying on the warm stones, others letting themselves be protected by the warmth of the trunks. They already felt safe, although the forest had not yet given them their approval. Noel remained next to them, on a log. In silence, he watched over them without controlling them, guided them without dominating them. He was a reassuring presence, like a bridge between 2 worlds that had never touched without violence. The first real interaction came from where they least expected. From the rabbits, small, fast, scared, running through the darkness with brief flashes of courage. A rabbit, the young man had lost his way, had gotten too close to the house and found himself face to face with a massive wolf, the one with the unusually blue eyes. Normally, everything would have ended in an instant. But the wolf did not attack him. It just stared at him for a long time, amazed, then turned its head and lay down again. And the rabbit, instead of running away immediately, remained frozen, trembling, unable to understand. Then it disappeared into the weeds, carrying the news further. Within a few hours, the news had reached all corners of the forest. The wolves no longer jumped on any creature that came their way. Their scent was different, calm, fed, with a kind of strange confidence. The next day, the forest was bustling as if at an unseen fair. The animals gathered in groups, murmuring, analyzing, discussing like secret councils. It was the first time that such a change had occurred. The sea had affected them all at the same time. "If the wolves have a home, they will no longer claim our territories," said a massive badger. "You think so, but what if they bring other wolves with them?" asked a thin marten. "We have to see how it behaves over time," said a deer with wide eyes. But every word, every conversation, no matter how fearful, had a new nuance, something that had never been heard in the forest. The possibility that the wolves were part of the community, not a threat to the edge of a clearing. Noel had organized a few baskets of food, a few pieces of meat for the wolves, brought by him. He had placed them not for the animals, but to demonstrate one thing. The wolves no longer needed to hunt to survive. They had food, they had shelter, they had stability. The wolves came, took, returned home, no attack. No rumor of wildness. The forest, for the first time, was beginning to recognize a simple truth. A hungry wolf is dangerous, but a fed wolf can become a neighbor. 3 days later, the first moment of real acceptance took place. Not a discussion, not a theory, but a gesture. A family of wild boars ventured through the bushes, and the little cub moved away, fascinated by the new smells. He approached the wolf house. Everyone hiding around, squirrels, crows, foxes, tensed up. But the mother wild boar did not dare to follow. It was too risky. The cub stopped a few steps from a young wolf. The wolf smelled him, tilting his head in a childish, almost playful way. He made no aggressive sound, took no threatening step. He just looked at him. After a few moments, the cub returned to his mother. The wolf sat back down, as if nothing had happened. Then, the entire forest felt the change. It was the beginning of a new understanding. The wolves were becoming animals of the forest in the same way that everyone else was. Neither higher nor lower. Part of the balance, not a crack in it. The next day, the deer entered the clearing without trembling. The rabbits ran past the wolf house as if they were near a large tree. The old fox even got close enough to smell some of them. The owls watched the scene from above with a feeling that resembled pride. The forest had a new chapter, and this chapter was being written without blood, without running, without fear. Acceptance came slowly, but it was real. Noel, looking at all this, knew that his mission was not over. He had finished. But for the first time he felt he was not fighting alone. The forest, with all its inhabitants, was learning something it had never thought possible, that a predator need not be an enemy. That instincts can be shaped by safety. That space, food, and understanding can change even the oldest laws of nature. That day, the forest was not just accepting the wolves. It was redefining itself. In a world that had always feared shadows, now room was being made for light. And at the center of that light was the House of the Wolves, the symbol of a coexistence that, once, would have seemed impossible. Chapter 21. The Flower Festival. The village of the 7 magic flower trees had been preparing for the celebration since the early hours of the morning. The birds were chirping differently, with a melodious and high vibration, and the light that filtered through the branches had an almost golden glow. It was a special day, a historic day for everything that lived in the forest. The flower festival, the celebration of peace and the new balance between all creatures. The old trees, those who had watched over the village since the days when animals were just passing shadows, seemed to have awakened their inner glow. Their forest pulsed with a gentle light, and the leaves, some soaked in dew, sparkled in unusual colors, as if a star were hidden in each drop. The animals and birds of the village said that when nature accepts a new beginning, the trees announce it before everyone else, and that day, the entire forest knew. Peace had been recognized. Preparations for the festival were in full swing. The rabbits were weaving wreaths of iris petals, sunflowers, lilies of the valley and bells, and the rabbits were bringing thin branches from which they formed decorative arches. The baby bunnies were running with their arms full of flowers, laughing, inventing games and running in circles under the gentle gaze of their parents. Around the sacred trees, the 7 giants of the village, long tables of carved trunks were spread, covered with green moss and rags of polished bark. Fruit, honey, fruit pies and fermented drinks made from flowers were brought there. Everything had to be natural, in harmony with the earth that gave life to every creature, and the center of the village, an old well, dug directly into the root of a giant tree, poured clear water with blue reflections. The inhabitants believed that this water had the power to amplify the light of the trees during the festival. It had been like this every year, but this year seemed different. Sweet scent hung in the air, a mix of rare flowers and damp bark. Light floated in visible light rays, dancing with the wind. The trees, in all their grandeur, seemed to glow with their own breath. It was as if the forest itself was celebrating with the animals. From the edge of the village, Noel watched the preparations with emotion. Tea was not just an ordinary festival. Tea was a symbol, a celebration, a confirmation that his work, his trust, his efforts, his risks, had paid off. The wolves were a few hundred yards away, close to their home, but they could feel the atmosphere and, in a way, they were participating too. They did not mingle with the rabbits, but looked in the direction of the village of the 7 trees with their intelligent, calm eyes. For the first time in many generations, the wolves could feel not only the tolerance of the forest, but also joy. Noel was preparing to walk towards the village, but before that he glanced at the meadow where the light reflected on the wolves' fur. He paused for a moment and put his hand over his heart. Yes, he told himself, this is the beginning of a new era. The festival began with the sound of 3 fir barks, cones, blown simultaneously. Their deep sound vibrated in the tree trunks and seemed to seek echo in the sky. Birds soared in colorful flocks, and the light penetrated even deeper into the crowns, intensifying the glow. The locals gathered in the central square, and 𝕿𝖎𝖙𝖍, the keeper of traditions, stepped forward. Her white hair was tied in floral ribbons, and her eyes saw much more than others could perceive. Today, she said, raising a staff decorated with seeds and dried leaves, we celebrate life, peace and the rebirth of the forest. Today, the trees spoke to us. The crowd murmured, according to tradition. And we listened to them. That moment, the glow of the trees intensified, like a synchronized pulse. Their light spilled into the petals, reflected in the animals' eyes and colored everyone's faces in a warm spectrum, reminiscent of the dawn of a new era. The first part of the festival was dedicated to gratitude. Each family came before the 7 trees and brought an offering. A bouquet of flowers, a small jar of honey, a wooden sculpture, some fruit. The offerings were not for the gods, but for the forest, for the living spirit of nature. When Noel brought his gift, a wreath woven from sturdy grass and twigs that had been used to build the wolf's house, the crowd stopped for a few seconds. A moment of understanding silence followed. The animals of the forest knew what he had done. They knew what it meant. 𝕿𝖎𝖙𝖍 approached him and put a hand on the shoulder. Peace never comes by chance, she said. You brought it. Noel bowed his head, speechless, overwhelmed. After the solemn part, the festival turned into an explosion of color, movement and joy. Chickens ran among the petals, throwing them into the air like fragrant confetti. Animals danced in circles, with fluid movements, reminiscent of the wind waving through the branches. Singers played on long flutes, carved from hazel stems, and their sound was cheerful, almost playful. In the middle of the village, a very old tree suddenly opened its flowers, a rare phenomenon, which only occurred during the flower festival. Its crown seemed to glow from within, and the petals fell slowly, like flakes of fragrant spring snow. "It is a sign that the forest is satisfied," whispered a fox to her daughter. "And that she accepts wolves," her husband added. The word spread quickly. People smiled, and some cried silently. To the edge of the village, 2 wolves approached without entering the clearing. There was a respectful curiosity, a desire to understand what was happening. Noel noticed them and approached them. "Do not be afraid," he whispered to them. "Today, the whole forest is celebrating. And you are part of it." The wolves looked at him with their clear eyes, then sat down on the ground, in a relaxed position. They did not need to cross the line of the clearing. They were already part of the celebration. A new song was heard from the village, the anthem of the festival, sung only once a year. It was a slow melody, with high and prolonged notes, which seemed to touch even the stones warmed by the sun. When the sound reached the wolves in the shadow, they raised their heads and, in an instinctive gesture, began to howl, not as they usually did, but in a gentle, almost emotional harmony. The animals stopped. The cubs looked up. The elders closed their eyes. Their howl was not a hunting cry, it was a song to union, and that at that moment, the forest vibrated with a force that no one had ever felt before. The trees shone brighter than ever, their light pulsating in the rhythm of the music and the howls. The flower festival continued until evening. The sunlight was decreasing, but the light of the trees was increasing, as if night did not exist there. The luminous petals fell continuously, transforming the village into a sea of colors. The animals danced, ate, laughed. The wolves came closer and closer, attracted by the light and harmony. Deer, foxes, wild boars, even nocturnal birds descended unusually low, as if they sensed that there was no danger. To the end of the festival, 𝕿𝖎𝖙 raised her staff again. Today, the trees saw peace, and they blessed it. The crowd said in chorus, "May peace last." The light of the trees intensified one last time, as an answer, and that night, the village of the 7 trees fell asleep in the deepest silence it had ever known, a warm, protective silence, in which even the wind seemed to whisper, "Thus begins a new world." Chapter 22. The Lesson of Friendship. After the flower festival, the village of the 7 trees seemed quieter and more welcoming than ever. The air was filled with cheerful songs and the laughter of baby rabbits, and the trees still glowed slightly from the magical lights that had adorned them with their luminous petals. Nino and Nina, the 2 cubs of the Noel and Luna family, were running among the flowers and leaves with 𝕬𝖠 and 𝖁, the cubs of the snow leaf family, and the other cubs in the village, sharing stories about their recent adventures, about the wolves that had once frightened them, and about their miraculous release. That day was special. It was not just an ordinary day of playing in the forest. It was a day when all the cubs would learn the most important lesson of all, the lesson of friendship. In the warm spring sunlight, the cubs had gathered around an improvised circle made of twigs and dry leaves. Noel and Luna had sat on the edge of the circle, smiling and listening attentively as each of the cubs told stories of their courage and the fear they had felt when they were captured or when the wolves approached the village. "You know," Noel began in a gentle voice, "courage does not mean not being afraid. Courage means knowing what to do even when fear tries you." Nino and Nina looked at each other, listening with wide eyes. 𝕬𝖠 and 𝖁, still slightly frightened by the memory of their captivity, seemed to remember how difficult it had been to manage on their own. "And what helps us feel less scared?" 𝕬𝖠 asked, her voice trembling. Noel smiled and leaned towards them. "Friendship and kindness," he answered. "When you have friends by your side, fear becomes less. When you act with kindness, Even those who have hurt you can understand that there is a better way. Then Luna intervened, gently stroking the heads of the chicks. See. You have all gone through difficult times. You have been scared, but you have found support in each other. This is the lesson of friendship, to know that you are not alone and that, through understanding and help, you can transform fear into courage. The chicks had remained silent for a moment, thinking about what their parents had said. Then Nino, his eyes shining with determination, said, I believe that friendship also means trusting those who help you. Like Lila did when she saved us at the farm. Yes, and Mira, Nina added. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't have managed to escape. The little rabbits started laughing, remembering the run through the bushes, their hearts beating so hard, and the unusual courage they felt. Their laughter echoed in the forest, bringing a sense of peace and joy to all the animals around them. That day, the little ones decided to organize a special game, called the Friendship Road. The goal of the game was to help each participant pass through a small route with improvised obstacles, bushes of twigs, lowered branches, small bark jumpers, and smooth stones. Each little rabbit had to pass by the others, and his friends helped him not to fall or trip. The game quickly became a way to apply what they had learned: courage, mutual support, and trust. Leary, hesitant at first, was helped by Nino to get over a dense bush. Sen was gently pushed by Nina to avoid falling into a small ditch. The baby rabbits laughed, learning to rely on each other and enjoy each other's success till the end of the game. Everyone stood in a circle, breathing heavily, but with hearts full of joy. Noel approached the circle and said, Look what you have achieved. Each of you has gone through obstacles, but not alone. Your friendship has made you braver. This is the true magic of our village. Then Luna added, You see, my dears, that when you act with kindness, you can help not only your friends, but also those who seem different or fearful. Fear is natural, but it can be overcome with wisdom and friendship. The sun slowly set, its light shining through the branches of the trees. The chicks began to understand more than the simple words of their parents. They felt, in their hearts, that friendship is not just a game or a story. It was something alive, tangible, that taught them how to be brave and gentle at the same time. After the game was over, the chicks sat in their circle of leaves, holding hands. Lily, Mira, and the other chicks laughed and told stories about their past fears, about what it was hard for them and how the support of their friends gave them strength. Their laughter mixed with the chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves, creating a symphony full of life and harmony. As the evening fell, the chicks noticed how the light of the trees shone gently, a sign that nature also recognized the lesson learned. Nino looked at Leary and Sen and said, I am happy to have friends like you. Even when we were afraid, we supported each other. And we will always be together, Sen replied with shining eyes. That moment, Noel and Luna looked at each other and smiled. The lesson of friendship had been understood not only by words, but also by actions. The village of the 7 trees had become, for the little ones, a place where fear was defeated, and kindness and friendship dominated. Night slowly fell over the forest. The stars sent their delicate light over the village, and the trees let their petals sparkle in the moonlight. The sleeping chicks now dream of new adventures, but with a firm lesson in their hearts. True friendship is the one that gives you courage when fear tries to overshadow your heart. And so, the village of the 7 trees and the Mida Forest rested in complete harmony, knowing that the lesson of friendship was planted deep in the hearts of the smallest inhabitants, preparing them for all the adventures that were to come. Chapter 23. Noel's Promise. After the flower festival and the lesson of friendship, the village of the 7 magic flower trees seemed more united than ever. The trees shone softly in the morning light, and the leaves rustled softly, as if the entire Mida Forest resonated with peace and harmony. The chicks ran among the flowers, still full of energy and excitement after the adventures and games of the previous day, while their parents discussed the future and how to keep the village even safer and more beautiful. Noel, the architect of the village, walked slowly down the central alley, admiring every detail of the 7 houses. Although each tree had its own colors, red, orange, yellow, green, white, indigo and purple, they all harmonized perfectly, like a rainbow that was reflected in every leaf and petal. He could see the courtyards with their solid fences, the observation posts in the corners and the owls that still watched over shade, even during the day. Jako parrots flew here and there, joking among themselves and, carefully guarding the airspace of the village, he approached the central square, where the entire community was gathered. All the inhabitants, young and old, looked with respect and curiosity at Noel. A subtle emotion floated in the air. They knew that their architect had something important to say, something that would mark the future of the village. Noel took a few steps forward and looked up at the trees, at the gathered families, and at the little ones who were looking at him with wide eyes. His breathing was calm, but his heart was beating slightly faster with emotion. In a simple gesture, he stretched out his arms, as if he wanted to encompass the entire forest and his village. "Dear friends," he began in a warm voice, "today we celebrate peace, friendship and courage. But there is something even more important. We must think about the future. About the safety and beauty of our village for all those who live here, now and for future generations." The crowd listened attentively. Each family understood the importance of these words, and the chickens looked at Noel with eyes full of admiration, knowing that their architect was not only the creator of their homes, but also their guardian. Noel continued his speech. "I promise to renew the houses of the village annually. I will make sure that every tree is healthy, every house is repaired and always more beautiful. The fences will remain solid, and the observation posts will always be functional, so that no danger can penetrate. You will always have lights in the houses, safe windows and yards where the children can run freely." Small voices echoed through the foliage. "We will help too," said Nino. "We will also take care of the yard and the flowers. And we will learn to be brave and friendly," Nina added. Noel smiled and nodded. "That's exactly what true friendship and responsibility means. To take care of others and be ready to help. I will always be here to watch over you, but each of you must contribute to the happiness and safety of the village." Looking towards the forest, Noel noticed the silhouettes of the wolves that had approached again, but this time not with fear or aggression, but curious and respectful. They were standing at the edge of the clearing, watching how the village was organized and how each inhabitant participated in maintaining harmony. "And even for those who were once enemies," Noel continued, "we will find solutions to live together. The wolves will have their own safe home in the forest, carefully built so that they will be happy and will no longer feel the need to catch our cubs." The Snowleaf family, the Crimson family and the other families smiled at him respectfully. But the village chief raised his head and said, "Your promise is not just for buildings, Noel, it is for our hearts. It is a vow that our village will remain a place of safety, beauty and friendship." Noel felt a warmth in his soul. He knew that his task was great, but he could already see the effects of his work. The baby rabbits that laughed, the animals that lived together in harmony, the friendship that was strengthened and the forest that pulsed with life. Luna, next to him, took his arm and added, And we, the parents, will make sure that this promise is not forgotten never. We will teach the children to be careful, to help and to keep the peace. Noel looked at each house, each family, and felt a sense of accomplishment to know that what he had built was not just wood and petals, but a place where friendship and kindness overcome fear, where courage and responsibility are learned from the little ones, was the greatest joy. From today on, he said, we will have a day when we will gather every year to check the houses, to repair what needs to be done, and to celebrate peace and friendship. Each of us will take care of the others, each one will contribute to the beauty of our village. And you will see that, through joint effort, the village of the 7 trees will remain a magical place forever. The children applauded, laughed and hugged each other. Nino and Nina ran to tell 𝕬𝖑 and 𝖁 about Noel's promise, and the cubs hugged each other enthusiastically. Even the wolves, at the edge of the forest, seemed to feel the peace and joy that poured from the village. The sun sank towards the horizon, the light reflected off every leaf and petal, transforming the village into a living rainbow. The cubs and the adults understood that what really mattered were not just the houses and fences, but the care, friendship and promise made for the safety of everyone. Noel sat down next to Luna and watched as the cubs celebrated, as the forest animals approached, as everything pulsed with life and harmony. In that moment, he knew that the promise, it was not just a word. It was a vow of love and care for the entire community. And so, the village of 7 trees entered a new era. An era of mutual care, respect for nature and true friendship. Noel's promise was the sign of a world in which every inhabitant, small or large, human or animal, could live in safety and happiness, under the protection of trees that shone from one year to the next. Chapter 24. A New Era in the Land of Nale. The sun had risen over the Mida Forest with a gentle brightness, and its rays played among the leaves of the trees, creating playful shadows on the green meadows and flower-covered paths. The air was fresh, mixing with the scents of wild flowers, and the wind blew gently, carrying with it the songs of birds and the rustling of leaves. The village of the 7 trees, carefully built by the great architect Noel, shone in the morning light. Houses with red, orange, yellow, green, white, indigo and purple flowers stood elegantly, each with its own personality, each harmoniously completing the forest landscape. In this idyllic setting, the community celebrated the beginning of a new era, an era of peace and harmony in the Land of Nale. From the last adventure with the wolf pack to the lessons of friendship, each day had taught the villagers to be more attentive, kinder and more united. The rabbits, the lizards 𝕬𝖑 and 𝕬𝖑, the birds Jako, the owls and even the wolves that had once threatened the forest, all now lived together in perfect balance. Noel and Luna walked the alleys of the village, observing how each family continued their daily life. Varun and Sheila, together with little 𝕬𝖑𝖈, prepared drawing lessons for the children, and Rondo and 𝕬𝖑, the Indira family, taught the twins Ronnie and Renu traditional songs. Brian and Looney, together with 𝕬𝖑 and 𝖁, arranged their vegetable garden and white flowers, while 𝖁𝖎𝖙 and Nessa with Rinny took care of the green yard, checking every fence and every gate. All these activities harmonized in a show of calm and orderly life, but full of energy and joy. The baby rabbits had gathered again in the central meadow, where they often performed games that taught them about cooperation and responsibility. Nino and Nina, along with 𝕬𝖑, 𝖁 and the other cubs, ran among the flowers, laughing and telling stories about the lessons they had learned in their recent adventures. This joy of the cubs was the sign of a living forest and village, where every inhabitant, regardless of species, had a safe place and a purpose. Noel, watching these scenes, felt a mixture of pride and gratitude. The village was no longer just a group of colorful houses, but a symbol of cooperation and mutual respect. With each house repaired and renewed, with each solid fence, with each observation post guarded by owls and Jako, the village became stronger and more harmonious. And the small river 𝕭𝖎𝖙, which ran through the Mida Forest and flowed smoothly among the trees, reflected in its waters the beauty of harmony and peaceful life. Meanwhile, the wolves who had once caused fear, 𝕮𝖎𝖙, 𝕁𝖎𝖙𝖏, Brahm and Vera, now lived in the house specially built by Noel on the edge of the forest. They had become accustomed to a peaceful life, raising their young and, even though their instincts made them vigilant, they had learned to respect the village borders and appreciate the kindness of those around them. One morning, Vera went out of their house and looked towards the village. She saw the baby rabbits running and their parents smiling. For the first time, she felt a sense of true peace. There was no longer any need for fear or attacks. Now there was friendship, respect and understanding. Lila and Mira, the lizard sisters, enjoyed their freedom in the village. They took care of the little ones, showed them the magical flowers, told them about the forest and how each animal has a role in maintaining balance. The young listened to them with fascination, and their bond with the rabbits had grown, transforming into a true friendship that transcended species differences. During the day, the forest was full of sounds and colors. Jako parrots shouted warnings, birds sang, and the leaves rustled under the footsteps of happy animals. Owls kept watch quietly from above, even though the day was not dangerous, because their presence was a symbol of security and wisdom. Every corner of the village was carefully watched, and this gave the inhabitants a deep sense of security. As the sun went down, transforming the sky into a palette of warm colors, the entire community gathered again in the central square to symbolically mark the beginning of a new era. Noel sat on a wooden bench, with Luna by his side, watching as the chicks and their parents sat in a circle. The chicks, holding hands, repeated the lessons they had learned: cooperation, courage, friendship, and kindness. Today, Noel said in a soft voice, a new era begins in the Land of Nale, an era in which fear no longer dominates, in which friendship, kindness, and respect will be our guide. Each inhabitant has a role, each contributes to the peace and beauty of the forest. The owls, from above, let out a solemn hoo-hoo, and the Jako parrots repeat their joyful sounds, creating a symphony that echoed throughout the forest. The wolves, on the outskirts of the village, trembled slightly, sensing the solemnity of the moment. Even the smaller birds and wild animals that watched from afar seemed to recognize the importance of this day. That evening, when the moonlight fell on the colorful trees, the village shone like a living jewel. Each family returned home, the children falling asleep with smiles on their faces, and the adults feeling the satisfaction of a mission accomplished. The Mida Forest, which had once been full of fear and insecurity, had become a sanctuary of harmony, a place where all beings lived together, respecting and supporting each other. Noel and Luna, looking at the sleeping cubs and the gentle lights of the village, felt a deep peace in their souls. Tea was a peace built through joint effort, through understanding and love. A new era had truly begun in the Land of Nale, and the story of the village of the 7 trees would go down in legend, as an example of courage, friendship and harmony for all future generations. And so, the Mida Forest resounded with joyful songs. The leaves rustled in delicate harmony, and the 𝕭𝖎𝖙 river flowed smoothly, reflecting the sky and the colorful trees. The village of the 7 trees had become more than a place to live. It was a symbol of love, friendship and a life lived in harmony, with everyone around them. In this new era, all the animals, be they rabbits, lizards, birds, or even the once threatening wolves, had learned that together they could transform fear into courage, and fear into friendship. Epilogue. The sun was slowly setting over the Mida Forest, and its gentle light caressed the corolla of each tree in the village of the 7 trees with magic flowers. The colors of the flowers were red, orange, yellow, green, white, indigo and purple. They seemed to shine more intensely than ever, as if the entire forest had celebrated the peace and harmony that now reigned in the village. The houses, meticulously built by the great architect Noel, merged perfectly with the tree branches, and the illuminated windows showed the warm and peaceful lives of the rabbit families. The baby rabbits ran through the yards, laughing and sharing their daily adventures, and their parents watched over them with attention and love. Lily and Mira, the brave lizards, played with the chicks, teaching them about the beauty of the forest and the responsibility to protect the life around them. The owls watched from above. In the silence the night was dark, and the Jako parrots soared in their joyful flight during the day, creating a symphony of sounds that brought peace and security to each family. The wolves that had once threatened the village now lived in the house specially built for them, on the edge of the forest. 𝕁𝖎𝖊𝖊𝖘, and Vera raised their young safely and taught their instincts to be peaceful. Their bond with the rabbits and the rest of the animals set a clear example that fear can be replaced with friendship and understanding, and harmony can be built even between those who were once enemies. The 𝕿𝖙 river flowed quietly through the trees, reflecting the sky and the magical flowers, and its gentle breeze brought a feeling of calm to all the inhabitants. The atmosphere was full of gratitude, love and joy, and every smile and every gesture of kindness pulsed throughout the village like magical energy. That moment, every being in the village of the 7 flowering trees 𝕁𝖎𝖙 understood that home is not just the place where you live, but also the place where you are loved, protected and respected. There, every day was a lesson in courage, every friendship a treasure, and the magic of flowers illuminated not only the trees, but also everyone's hearts. And so, the village of the 7 trees with magic flowers entered legend as a place where friendship, kindness and harmony govern everything, and every being who steps there feels that they have discovered a universe where fear and sadness have no place, and love and courage are the true masters.